Chapter 1268. That's right. Zhang Xiaobao pushed open the window and waved his arm at the people below. When he got a response, he said, "Let's talk about our daily lives. When the child is 1 month old, is it a courtesy to treat others to a meal? When the child is 1 year old, is it a courtesy? Anyone with a bit of money should do it. Do you want to apply? If you don't, you can apply in other countries and become their property. If you apply, you can spend money and go through the procedures. When the child grows up and gets engaged, do you want to apply? Get married, do you want to apply? If you don't apply, other people apply, and you become their property. When we eat, we can use chopsticks, plates, and other dining utensils and habits. When we eat crabs, we can apply for yellow wine and seasonings. When we wear clothes, we can apply for jackets and gowns. When we wear them, we can apply for them. When we eat chili soup, tofu pudding, fried dough sticks, shortbread, and other things for breakfast, we can apply for them. When we pass on our civilization, we can apply for them. Just tell us. Every action and action of theirs is a sign of civilization. How can we apply? We will die of exhaustion. Japan's sushi and sashimi are world famous. Where did they learn it from? Korea's barbecue is delicious. Where did they learn it from? This is the helplessness of a country with thousands of years of civilization. It's not that we don't want to fight, but everything around us is up for grabs. It's too painful. If we don't have such a long history like the US, wouldn't it be easier? Who is it? Who is it that has been passing on our civilization? Sinners, look at how tired we are. Ha ha ha. Wang Wan laughed and patted Zhang Xiaobao's back. Shameless. You are obviously praising your own people, but you still have to act like you have a deep hatred. Since you know, let's work together to spread the Tang Empire's words everywhere. Whoever dares to not submit will be hindering the progress of world unification. Why are they fighting downstairs? As Wang Wan was talking, she suddenly noticed a person arguing with the doctor sitting on the second seat on the left. As they were far away and it was noisy downstairs, she couldn't hear what was going on. Zhang Xiaobao also noticed it. Let's go down and take a look. Forget it, let's get someone to report it. What if someone is deliberately leading us down to assassinate us? Assassinate. Idyll city is very peaceful. As Wang Wan spoke, she went to the door and gave an order. Not long after, the person who had been sent to inquire about the situation came up and explained the situation to Zhang Xiaobao. It turned out that he was the son of a wealthy family. He knew that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were in Idyll and wanted to meet them, but he couldn't find an opportunity to do so, so he went to the school to donate money. Normally, people who donated money would leave with a receipt, but he insisted on having a meal with the children. Recently, the weather had become hot. When the children had their meals, there was an additional dish. It was not a dish, but congee. It was mung bean congee with rock sugar. Every child would drink a bowl of it after they finished their meal. Then, they could take a fruit plate and walk around as they pleased. They just had to bring the plate back when they finished eating. The young master of the wealthy family also drank the porridge. In the end, one of the children found a worm in the porridge. It was a very small worm. Adults usually ignored it, but the child drank it seriously. Half of the worm was exposed outside, and the other half was in a boiled green bean that had bloomed. The worm in the mung bean was actually more nutritious. The child hated worms, so he picked it out and threw it on the table. It was then seen by the son of a wealthy family who was donating money for the first time. He thought that the congee he drank also had worms in it, or at least the water used to cook the worm went into his stomach. For the past 2 days, he had been feeling uncomfortable in his stomach. He often pressed his stomach and put his hand on his stomach when he slept. Then, he started to have diarrhea. It had been 3 days, and he hadn't recovered. Today, the doctor saw him and said that he was not sick. He asked him to make a waist protector and wrap it around his navel when he slept at night. He would be fine when the time came. To be honest, was the son of a wealthy family sick? Yes, diarrhea was definitely a kind of illness no matter how you explained it. However, the doctor was very experienced. He knew what was going on after asking and taking the pulse. There was no need to prescribe medicine. He was affected by his emotions, so he had diarrhea. Because the son of a wealthy family always felt that there was something wrong there, he would cover it and stroke it. That was the stomach and intestines. When he stroked it, he would be stimulated. Once he forgot to touch it, the temperature was different, and the flora would be different. Coupled with his own psychological suggestion, how could he not have diarrhea? The doctor considered it very clearly. With a waist protector, the temperature would be there. Besides, he would always feel that there was something there. After a long time, he would get used to it and forget it. At that time, the diarrhea would be fine. There was no need to use medicine. However, the son of a wealthy family got angry. He said that he was sick, very sick, but the doctor lied to him and didn't prescribe medicine for him. He said that his family was very rich and didn't need to take advantage of the imperial court. He was willing to spend money to buy medicine and asked the doctor to tell him the truth. Sick, sick, Zhang Xiaobao said after he knew the reason. You became a doctor. The doctor said there was nothing wrong. Wang Wan stuck her head out and said to Zhang Xiaobao. Wife, in your opinion, shouldn't there be several swimming pools for the children to play in the newly built district? A very big one with corresponding facilities. Zhang Xiaobao also looked at the people who were quarreling and said. Even Wang Wan, who was used to Zhang Xiaobao's jumping and coherent thinking, was stunned by Zhang Xiaobao's words. She knew that whenever Zhang Xiaobao changed the topic, he would consider all the calculations and it would be related to the current matter. It sounded very strange. There was no connection between swimming pools and illness, but in the end, there must be an inevitable connection. It was very strange. The same thing had happened many times before. In the end, it proved that the change of topic didn't change the situation. It still had an impact on the current situation, and it was a very direct kind of impact. Therefore, Wang Wan became cautious. She followed Zhang Xiaobao's words and said, Indeed, children are not like us, who dare to exercise at the age of 1. That is because we are familiar with the situation of the body. If we let the children run and walk on the sand, they will be tired and get sick in the end. However, swimming is different. Swimming is the soft contact of the body with the surrounding environment. As long as the child is tired, it will be shown immediately. It is very difficult for you to persist unless you have undergone professional training. If you run, it is different. The body's endurance is different, and the child will be sick. According to what you said, we really need several very big artificial swimming pools. When the children want to exercise, they can swim. When they are tired, they can find a floating device and soak in the water to relax. At the same time, if there is sunlight, it can make the body healthier. That's right. Swimming is suitable for people of any age, as long as they have a good rhythm of rest. However, building a good swimming pool costs money, and so does treating illnesses. Do you think we can use the money to treat illnesses and build swimming pools? Zhang Xiaobao looked at the young man who was arguing with the doctor and was delaying things. He was not angry at all. Instead, he looked as if he was looking at a gold ingot. Wang Wan looked sadly at the person who was still arguing with the doctor. She thought to herself, this big brother, you chose the wrong place. Why do you have to go downstairs where Xiao Bao is to provoke the doctor? Look, Xiao Bao has his eyes on you, right? That's fine too. We can build a few big swimming pools with 1,000 strings of coins. That's the cost. We can make our own tiles at home, so the cost will be very low. Since you waited for us to come before pretending to donate money to the school, we'll let you pay more. As she thought about it, Wang Wan said softly to Zhang Xiaobao, be merciful, or rather, don't be so ruthless. You have to know the severity of the treatment. You have to know that treating illnesses and swimming pools are actually related. Zhang Xiaobao replied to Wang Wan. Wang Wan nodded and muttered, your way of thinking is really scary. No wonder Li Longji failed time and time again. What is the connection between treating illnesses and swimming pools? Only you can make the connection. Saying that your deception skills are unparalleled is not wrong at all. Oh, I am not belittling you at all. Wang Wan's muttering was not loud, but Zhang Xiaobao still heard it. He turned around and smiled, it's a professional habit. If I don't cheat at least once when I see an opportunity, I will feel that I am not professional enough. I believe you also know my achievements. The trick is dialectical materialism. After learning it well, there is nothing that can't be done. Whether I cheat or not depends on my heart, because it is unified and opposite. Any accident is inevitable. Everything in the world is connected. Jumping out of the fixed thinking, grasping time and space, and fully utilizing human nature, this is the foundation of deception. Okay, I admit that you are good. What is the highest level of deception? Wang Wan looked at Zhang Xiaobao from the corner of her eyes. Then we have to talk about the first two levels first. The first is, if you want to cheat in reality, your heart will follow. The second level is when your heart is deceiving, but reality is not deceiving. The third level is, there is no self, no heart, and no deception, right? Wang Wan continued. Chapter 1269. Doctor, please take a look at me. I'm really sick. If I'm not sick, who will have diarrhea? Doctor, tell me the truth. Can my illness still be cured? When the doctor began to treat others, the rich man was still talking. He didn't dare to stop the doctor from treating others, nor did he dare to threaten the people in line, but he could pester the doctor and keep talking, slowing down the doctor's diagnosis. The doctor said to a person sitting in front of him, there's no problem. You're healthy. It's hot, so pay attention to prevent sunstroke. Thank you, doctor. The person stood up happily and thanked the doctor. He didn't forget to glare at the troublemaker next to him. I'll give you a prescription. The doctor had no choice but to look at the rich man and say. The rich man immediately nodded. Yes, yes. I'll pay for the prescription. I have money. You should have prescribed me a long time ago. The doctor gently shook his head. I still want to give you a piece of advice. According to the rules, when a doctor treats people, he won't use medicine if he can. If he can treat externally, he won't treat internally. If he can take medicine, he won't use needles. If he can use needles, he won't use a drip. If he can use a drip, he won't do surgery. First, there aren't many good medicines in Tang. Several departments are still jointly researching. They may not be able to treat the illness, especially the anti-inflammatory ones. Second, the amount of medicine produced is limited. We don't expect to make money by selling the medicine. If you use it and others don't need it, they will regret it. Third, if you eat too much medicine, you will develop resistance. If you have the same illness in the future, you will need to adjust the type of medicine or increase the amount of medicine. If you get sick again after a long time, there will be no medicine to treat you. When the people who were waiting for the doctor to see if they were sick heard the doctor's words, they all showed a look of realization. It turned out that the doctor had to pay attention to this. It was really not easy. At least, it was a test of medical skills. Otherwise, it would be convenient to come up and use a drip. It would save the doctor a lot of trouble. It never occurred to him that the doctor had to clearly distinguish the treatment method for people. Ordinary doctors might not understand it. The rich man didn't care about that. When he heard that the doctor was willing to prescribe medicine for him, he nodded happily. Whatever you say, as long as there is medicine to take. The doctor was helpless. He raised his pen and planned to prescribe some medicine to treat the intestinal flora. The Ministry of Works produced 2 kinds of medicine that could treat this illness. Unfortunately, there weren't many. But when he put the pen to the paper, the doctor had an idea and prescribed a comfort pill. It had no medicinal effect and could only provide psychological comfort. This medicine was very suitable for the situation at hand. After writing it down, the doctor said to the rich young master, "Go to the clinic and get the medicine yourself. 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening. Take 2 pills each time. Today is the first time you take it, so you can take 4 pills. After 3 days, you will basically recover. After the first time you take it, you will find that your body is getting better." "Really? You finally gave me a prescription. I'll give you the money." Thank you, doctor. You really have medical ethics. I'll be fine in 3 days. Your medical skills are also very high," the rich young master said happily. Then, he took out some money from his pocket and pulled out a note with a large amount of money written on it. The doctor did not refuse. He indicated that it was not appropriate for him to reach out and take the money. He asked the rich man to put it beside the table and gave a look to the person standing behind him. The person took the money while the doctor washed his hands and prepared to see the next person. The people around them did not say anything. They knew that the doctor of the Zhang family and the Wang family would not care about this small amount of money. He would probably use it on welfare later, just like the donation box. The rich young master turned around and was about to leave when he suddenly turned back. "Doctor, I think I have a bad stomach and I ate a bug. The bug is not dead. I didn't say it just now. You only gave me medicine for a bad stomach. Where is the anti-bug medicine?" The doctor began to grit his teeth. He thought to himself, "Should I give you some medicine to treat mental illness? You are being unreasonable. It's over, madam. Look, that kid is going to die." Just as the doctor was about to use the psychological suggestion again, a voice came from behind him. The voice was old. The doctor turned his head, and the eyes of the people nearby also swept over. However, the rich young master glared angrily. It was fine for him to say that he was sick, but if the patient cursed him, he would not be happy. When everyone looked over, they saw a woman with a veil covering her face standing there gracefully. Beside her was an old man with white hair and a white beard. His hair was tied up in a ponytail with a wooden hairpin. This old man was wearing a blue gown and a pair of shoes with 1,000 soles. He held a gourd in one hand and placed the other in front of his chest. He was shaking his head. "Qinghong, there is no need to say more. Everyone has their own destiny. Let's go." The woman's clear voice sounded as she stepped forward. The old man had his back facing the direction the woman was walking in. He pretended to walk forward, and then his body moved backward. His eyes were fixed on the rich young master. After more than 10 steps, he shook his head again and turned to follow the woman. Everyone was stunned for a moment. What was going on? The old man looked like he was walking forward. Why was his body moving backward? The rich young master's eyes widened and his mouth opened. "Qinghong, is this a Buddhist name or a Taoist name? Amazing. Immortal, wait for me. I am sick. Help, wait for me." After shouting, he chased after the old man. The doctor angrily slammed the table and stood up. He thought to himself, who is so bold? Who dares to lie to our family? Cheating under the young master's house is purely a joke. Don't you understand that in front of the young master, there is no lie in the world? Just as he was about to move, someone came over and pressed on the doctor's shoulder, whispering a few words in his ear. After hearing this, the doctor smiled and sat back down. The old man, who had already gone far away, and the woman got into a car. The car moved forward at a moderate speed. The old man in the car put down the gourd and rubbed his legs with both hands. He complained as he rubbed, "I should have changed places. That broken road is so tiring. If I walk 2 more steps, I will be exposed. You are bullying others because they have never seen this kind of sliding. In a while, someone will realize. Your feet are rubbing on the ground. Do you think others are stupid?" The woman chuckled and said, "They can't react. The time is too short. What is there to be afraid of rubbing my feet on the ground? Maybe they think I am shrinking. Listen, that guy is still chasing behind and shouting that the swimming pool is settled. The doctor's place is also quiet." The old man's voice changed this time. It was Zhang Xiaobao's. Wang Wan, who was sitting next to them, was a little pitiful for the person chasing behind. She said to Zhang Xiaobao, "You say, is it good to lie to people? His family is doing a decent business. He has an uncle who is a 5th-level official in the capital. Just because he is delaying the doctor's treatment, you lie to him. It's not called lying. I am helping him. Didn't the investigation say that he always wants to make a lot of money through his own efforts and then buy as many lottery tickets as he can? I let him invest some money to build the swimming pool. Later, I will give him an idea and let him put his mind on business. This is great kindness. A kind person like me, is it getting less and less? You are lying to people while saying that you are doing a good thing. Then, you give him an idea to do something reliable. You still leave merits. It is too hard for you. Good person, I will burn incense for you when I go home and set up a long life memorial tablet for you." Wang Wan teased Zhang Xiaobao. At the same time, she was very excited. It had been a long time since she saw Xiaobao lie to people. But it was good to lie to that guy. Otherwise, he would have nothing to do all day. After about a quarter of an hour, they arrived at a park in Idyll City. Although it was called a park, there were no walls. This place was developed later. The area was not small. In the past, it was a slum. It was dirty and difficult to treat. The terrain was also low. When there was a lot of rain, mosquitoes and flies would wreak havoc. Later, when the city was expanded, it was moved away. The people were very happy and lived in new houses. Fewer people fell ill in the summer. A small lake was dug out and connected by winding rivers and canals. A gravel road was paved and flowers and trees were planted. In the summer, people had a place to play. They could hold an open-air barbecue, go boating, and rent a place to sell snacks. After 2 years, they had earned back half of the money they had invested. It was estimated that in 4 or 5 years, they would be able to make a profit. The money would be returned to the government. The barbecue area in the park was designated. It was only allowed to be barbecued in that area. Those who wanted to bring their own food and had to pay 2 coins. Then, when they were barbecuing, they could throw away the bamboo skewers and paper towels. After they finished eating, they would leave. Someone would come and clean the place. The money they paid was for the person who cleaned the place. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan got out of the car. They were going to the barbecue area. Originally, they wanted to take their younger brothers and sisters out for a walk. However, the little guys had their eyes on the boy who liked to play games. They didn't know what the little guys were going to do. Were they going to use fatigue tactics to make the little boy feel uncomfortable when he saw Monopoly in the future? Or were they going to use Monopoly to give him more in-depth education? They were going to increase the difficulty of the game. When the level was high, they would learn a lot about geography and biology while playing. For example, the simplest Monopoly game could be played by just rolling a die. Wherever they reached, they would put a sign that belonged to them and wait for others to enter to collect money. Xiao Bei and the others played a different game. They had to consider many things. For example, after rolling the die twice, they would reach a market. If they wanted to own a share, they would buy 20 carts of food. When they played the die again, they would move forward, and when they sold the food to make money. When it rained, the food would become moldy and lose money. Adults found this kind of game interesting. Children could learn a lot of common knowledge from it. It was more useful than learning from books. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan couldn't guess what the little guys were going to do, so they left them at home to play games with others. The two of them could enjoy the scenery of the park while enjoying the barbecue. At the same time, they could also trick the rich young master. The two of them felt that life was too beautiful. They only envied Mandarin ducks and not immortals. Oh my God, it's so good to be an immortal. I'm not afraid of getting sick. Immortal, immortal, wait for me, I'm sick. The rich young master ran all the way to the park. When he saw a woman and an old man get off the car and walk inside, he waved his hands and shouted. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan acted as if they didn't hear him. They still walked at a leisurely pace. They didn't even take the barbecue. The coachman had already found a shady place to stop. He took out a book and read while waiting. Chapter 1270. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan entered the barbecue area, the rich man behind them was still chasing and shouting. He was also tired after running all the way. God, save me, I'm sick. The rich man didn't care if there were others around him and shouted very stubbornly. When he ran to the two people in front, the two people turned around and looked at him. One of them said, "This person is sick. You can see it too." The rich man heard the voice and asked in surprise. The man curled his lips. "You're seriously sick?" Yes, I'm dying. I won't talk to you anymore, I'm going to chase the god." The rich man was more and more convinced that he was sick, and he secretly scolded the doctor before for being a quack. When he chased into the barbecue area, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were choosing a grill. They didn't bring anything when they came, so they had to spend more money to rent or buy something here. The barbecue area specialized in renting and selling these things, and the price was 10% higher than outside. For example, a normal grill, 1 meter long, the standard one outside was 95 copper coins, but here it was 105 copper coins, and if it was rented, it would be 7 copper coins, and it would be recouped after a dozen or so rentals. Some people found it troublesome and didn't bring anything when they came out to barbecue, so they bought it here. Or some people brought their own grill and had to take it back to repair, so they rented it first. Some people made money, and some people got convenience. There were all kinds of grills, and you could even roast a whole lamb if you wanted. In addition to the grill, there were also sticks. There were 2 kinds of materials, bamboo and iron, and the thickness and length were different. It depended on what you wanted to roast. If the meat was big, you could only use iron sticks. If it was bamboo, it would be tiring. You had to keep fanning, otherwise, you would break the sides. If the meat was small, you could use bamboo. After roasting it, there would be a smell of bamboo. There were also shops selling charcoal around. Bamboo charcoal, and stone charcoal were all available, and there were also several kinds of special wood. Perhaps some people felt that they were good at cooking and wanted to show off by smoking and roasting. The most important thing was the food provided by the barbecue area. Other than beef, there were all kinds of normal meat. Of course, there were no tigers or pandas. Pandas were not allowed to be eaten now. Under normal circumstances, tigers could not be caught and sold here. Occasionally, there would be frozen wolf meat, snake meat, and bamboo rats. These were all strange things. Most people wouldn't buy them and could only freeze them. Normally, the meat of mutton, pork, and poultry would be delivered early in the morning with ice placed underneath to maintain a relatively low temperature. Otherwise, it would not be easy to sell the meat when it was almost evening. As for the meat that was bad, it could not be bad, but the color would change and the meat would gradually loosen. When people pressed it, they would shake their heads and not buy it. Not far from where the meat was sold, there were vegetables and soy products. There were also mushrooms and the like. The vegetables were placed separately, just like the meat. The price was 20% higher than outside. The soy products were even 30% higher. The mushrooms were only slightly more expensive. It was not that they did not want to raise the price of the vegetables and meat, but the people in charge of the park did not allow it. If the price was too high, people would not buy it. The park was a long-term place, and they could not suddenly scare people away. Next to the vegetables were seasonings. There was even a special piece of land in the park where onions and other green vegetables were planted. Usually, the people in charge of the park would eat it themselves. If someone wanted to buy it, they could go in and pick it. This was expensive. Otherwise, the people in charge of the park would have to go out and buy it themselves. The previous provincial governor was really good. Don't look at it as a simple park. With it, not only did it solve the sanitation and environmental problems of the local slums, but it will also provide profits for the government in the future. More importantly, this park can make people closer to each other and increase the harmonious relationship between the local people. When people of all classes enter the park, there will be less of a sense of hierarchy, especially when everyone brings their families and children to run around. Many of the barriers created by society itself will be reduced. Everyone may have different attitudes towards the same adults, but they treat their children the same. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the idle and busy people and praised the outgoing provincial governor. The provincial governor had already entered the capital and had been evaluated as excellent for 3 consecutive years. In the last year, he had completed the construction of this park and received an excellent evaluation. This was personally said by Zhang Xiaobao. He wanted to use this method to tell the other officials that when considering the economy, they should consider the relationship between the environment and the people's livelihood. After Zhang Xiaobao, who rarely directly participated in the affairs of the imperial court officials, took action that time, countless officials were excited. It turned out that the road to the capital was so easy. At that time, Li Longji shook his head and said to Gao Lisher that it was easy to enter the capital, but it was not easy to do things with a heart for the people. He wanted to see how many people could persevere. Wang Wan also thought highly of the previous provincial governor. He was a capable official, but he could not always let a capable official stay in one place. After a long time, it would cause the local people to only recognize the official and forget the emperor. Just like her and Xiao Bao, the two of them could not stay in one place for too long. Even if they were now holding the position of Commander-in-Chief of the Bohai Commander-in-Chief and Deputy Provincial Governor of Northern Hebei Province, the two of them still had to leave. The reason why they did not send other officials there was because other officials there could not come up with a good idea. That was the country's military and economic strategic location. Therefore, it was easy for others to do things wrong. At the same time, Shi and Xiao Bao could not enter the capital to be officials, because Xiao Bao's father was a minister there. In other words, the two of them would always be wandering around the country. Immortal, fairy, I finally caught up. I am crazy. While Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were thinking about local governance issues, the rich man came over breathlessly. After greeting the two of them, he was thirsty and pointed at the open bamboo shop next to him. give me a cup of water and some salt. Oh, 3 cups. What if the immortal is thirsty too? In the open door of the small shop, someone immediately brought 3 cups of water. The rich man took one first and held it in front of Zhang Xiaobao. Old immortal, drink some water. Zhang Xiaobao did not immediately take the cup. Instead, he stared at the rich man's hand holding the cup. He looked as if he was calculating, muttering some inexplicable words such as fingerprints matching stars, length matching heaven and earth, and so on. After he finished calculating, Zhang Xiaobao said to the rich man, "It is fate that we meet. Forget it. I will give you a ride today. Young Master Huang, drink some water and take a rest. We will talk about other things." How do you know my surname is Huang? The rich man was frightened. But after thinking about it, he became excited again. "Yes, you are right. My surname is Huang. My father named me, Yao Ben, the name Lu Yuan. It means that one should not forget one's origin in the long journey of life. Is it right to protect the prosperity of the Huang family?" Zhang Xiaobao did not wait for him to finish. He looked up at the sky and said, "Yes, yes, yes. Immortal, you are really an immortal. My name is Huang Yao Ben. My surname is Lu Yuan. That's right, that's right. This year, 1 year has passed, and 3 months have passed. 21 years and 3 months have passed. Is it right?" "Yes, it is right." "Immortal, how did you calculate? Can I learn it?" Huang Yao Ben, whose name and age were calculated, asked expectantly. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "Yes or no, it is up to fate. Drink the water." "Okay, I will drink. Fate, I am definitely a person of fate." Huang Yao Ben raised his head and poured the water into his stomach. He asked again, "Immortal, you too are here today for, I have not eaten for many years. I miss it. Today, I will eat a little." Looking at the endless celestial palaces, but missing the noise of the mortal world, Zhang Xiaobao saw a tree branch moving in the distance. He quickly adjusted his direction as he spoke. A gust of wind blew, causing his hair and beard to fly in the wind. This time, not only was the person who delivered the water and Huang Yao Ben dumbfounded, Wang Wan was also full of admiration. He could even make use of the wind. It could be seen how deep the foundation of deception was. Professional, really professional. The waiter who delivered the water swallowed his saliva and asked carefully, "Immortal, may I ask, do you know my surname?" "Yang, your name is Yang Dongshui." Zhang Xiaobao answered quickly this time. The waiter bent his knees and was about to kneel. Zhang Xiaobao reached out and helped him up. Then, his eyes could not leave Zhang Xiaobao. He wanted to remember the immortal's appearance. Immortal, what else can you calculate?" The waiter asked again. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "You don't need to search for immortals. Just ask your heart. I will give you a word, righteous. Walk the right path, maintain a righteous heart, and your future will be limitless. Go. Oh, I remember. I will be a good person in the future. When I sell things, I will not lie. I am loyal and patriotic. I will be good to the elderly and children. I will work seriously and not be afraid of hard work." The waiter promised. The more he spoke, the straighter his back became. Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand again. The waiter retreated with a respectful expression. "You go and rest first. I will wait and see." Zhang Xiaobao said to Huang Yao Ben. Huang Yao Ben also respectfully found a place to sit. There were many chairs of different lengths. He did not need to spend any money to sit. When Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao stood by the lake, she asked puzzledly, "Wang Yao Ben, this is the one we asked people to investigate. As for the other waiter, how do you know he is called Yang Dongshui? He is a waiter here. It is written on the sign in front of his chest. There is also a portrait that looks similar to him. Below it is a certificate from the medical center. It says that he is very healthy and does not have any infectious diseases. Didn't you see it?" Zhang Xiaobao explained in a low voice. Wang Wan angrily glared at Zhang Xiaobao and muttered, "Liar." "Thank you." Zhang Xiaobao bowed and thanked him with the gourd. Huang Yao Ben, who had rested for a while, ran over and stood behind Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He did not dare to make a sound as he curiously looked at the lake. He did not know why these two immortals liked to stand here. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao also did not speak. The two of them enjoyed the beautiful scenery of the lake together. If there was no Huang Yao Ben, it would be even better. The two of them could lean against each other and hum while watching the willows move and the water ripple in the wind. Thinking that there was still someone waiting to be deceived, the two of them temporarily put down their good mood. They turned around and looked at Huang Yao Ben at the same time. Huang Yao Ben opened his eyes. His gaze was full of expectation. "Young Master Huang, tell me about this park. What did you experience in the secular world?" Zhang Xiaobao wanted to understand Huang Yao Ben more. He wanted to have a better understanding of Huang Yao Ben so that after deceiving him, he could think of a better way out. Huang Yao Ben thought about it and sighed. It is too sad to be sick in the secular world. Chapter 1271. Zhang Xiaobao was speechless when he heard Huang Yaoben's answer. He had no choice but to ask, "How is the park? Should it be repaired?" A park in the mortal world. Huang Yaoben had been thinking about the mortal world. He repeated the question and lowered his head to think about it. Then he said, "Good, very good." "What's good about it?" Zhang Xiaobao asked again. "First of all, this park in the mortal world is big enough. It won't be crowded even if groups of people walk in it. When it was built, the scenery was very good. It doesn't make people feel bored and monotonous. There are flowers, grass, water, trees, and even fake mountains. Immortal, you may not know this, but in the beginning, this wasn't a park. It was a place for the poor to live. Later, when Governor Wang saw that the city was going to be expanded, he moved the people out. It was originally a low-lying and useless place where there was a lot of rain and water. He didn't let people fill in the soil and directly dug a big lake. Some of the soil that was dug out was used to raise other places. Some of it was transported outside the city and paved in the wasteland. This made the wasteland much better. Although the people who lived here before made the place very dirty and messy, the soil under their feet was very good. Isn't it amazing? Ordinary people can't even think of such a good idea, let alone do it. It's a pity that Governor Wang has already left. He went to the capital to be an official with my uncle. If he could stay, I believe that in 5 years, Idyll will be even more beautiful." Huang Yaoben spoke clearly and logically. He was indeed a child of a rich family. Even if he had many flaws, he had learned a lot under the influence of others since he was young. Zhang Xiaobao and Wei Wei nodded and didn't say anything. Huang Yaoben probably thought that his answer wasn't comprehensive enough. He anxiously thought about it and said, "However, now that Xiaobao and Cuckoo are here, they have started to build a new district outside. When the time comes, the two sides will be connected. It will form a very good traffic environment, rich cultural atmosphere, frequent trade and business, and stable political situation. The local area will be very prosperous." Huang Yao used a bunch of "very" consecutively. After he finished speaking, he smiled embarrassedly, as if he didn't say it properly just now. Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Wang Wan. Seeing that Huang Wan also had a smile in her eyes, he nodded. He felt that the Huang Yao in front of him was very different from what the intelligence report said. The intelligence report said that the Huang Yao in front of him did not have any status in the Huang family. Moreover, the third young master who was somewhat of a hedonistic son was not as bad as others thought. Oh, so there's such a thing. Let me do the math. Zhang Xiaobao still had to pretend, and began to count his fingers again. Huang Yao originally stared at it attentively, hoping to learn something from it. However, she realized that the speed at which the deity pinched was too fast. There were many marks on her fingers. If she pinched herself, it would hurt a lot. Zhang Xiaobao was also in pain. While thinking about things, he pinched his fingers and unconsciously used too much force. After a while, Zhang Xiaobao asked Huang Yaobao, "Is this bustling scene because of the park?" "There is a reason for it, but it isn't." Huang Yaoben answered. "What's the reason?" Zhang Xiaobao asked. "It's because of the war. Our great Tang is bullying people now." "It's not bullying, it's just teaching people a lesson when they don't listen. Don't you think that Duosher has nothing better to do? It's fine if they don't want to submit to us, but when they see that we have dealt with the Turks in Tubo, they want to occupy those places." "How bold do you think they are? We have just dealt with the people in those places and haven't even developed them yet, but they want to take it away. How hard do you think Cuckoo and Xiaobao have been fighting? They are scheming and scheming, how can we let them have it?" Look, the two of them got angry and started to deal with Duosher. As they dealt with Duosher, they also took over Duosher's former territory, which is now called India. They still have a lot of resources and minerals. When the time comes, they will transport them back. Our Idyll is relatively closer to it, so there are benefits to be had. Otherwise, why would the two of them start to build a new city? The two of them are more powerful than Governor Wang, much more powerful. They are like gods. Do you know the two of them? I heard that the two of them came down from above. Could it be that you are here to capture them?" Huang Yaoben thought as he spoke. When he reached this point, the expression in his eyes changed. He took a step back with his right foot and made a kicking motion. He placed his hands on his waist, as if he was about to punch. "I don't know them." Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "There are 9 layers of heaven, and there are 9 layers of heaven. There are endless layers. Maybe the two of them you are talking about are from above." "Oh, if they are not here to capture them, then they are from above. The two of them are very powerful. If you see them, you have to be more respectful. Otherwise, millions of ordinary people in Great Tang will curse you." Huang Yaoben didn't forget to threaten them. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Huang Yaoben with a gentle gaze and said, "Yes, with your current condition, who would dare to be disrespectful to them? Your illness, actually, wait." Huang Yaoben interrupted Zhang Xiaobao, "There is no hurry to treat the illness. Since the two of you are here, shouldn't you do something? You can't spend all day sightseeing." Zhang Xiaobao was stunned and secretly admired Huang Yaoben. Huang Yaoben was indeed not an ordinary person. What was he thinking all day? How dare he lecture the immortals in front of him? Are you afraid or not? Wang Wan added at this time, "We want to see this park. When we go to other places, we can build one. The park is popular and it is easy to earn merit points." "That's right." Huang Yaoben returned to his previous respectful appearance, which made Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao deeply understand the contradiction of human nature. "I don't know about other parks, but the park in Idyll can earn merit points very quickly. You don't know, after the park is built, there will be adults bringing their children here when they are not busy. Some will row boats, some will barbecue, and some will find a place to play football. As long as the children have someone to play with, it doesn't matter what they play. Even if they are running around on the grass, they are very happy. Do you know the result? I don't think you understand. Immortals are less angry after being immortals for a long time. Many families have fewer quarrels. Usually, they don't have anywhere to go, so they stay at home. Of course, they are in a bad mood. Now that there is a big park, they are in a good mood. This is in the field of psychology. Psychology, understand. Ever since Huang Yaoben mentioned Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, he changed completely. It seemed that he was not as afraid of immortals as he was in the beginning. He felt that if immortals wanted to do something to him, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would definitely not sit by and watch. Xiao Bao was depressed. You still have the nerve to talk to me about psychology. Don't you know how you got this illness? Don't you study psychology and use it on others? However, Xiao Bao felt the change in Huang Yaoben. After thinking about it, he understood. This was the power of faith. It was also the motivation for him and Wang Wan to continue working hard to improve the overall standards of the Tang dynasty. What a good family member. For Wang Wan and himself, he actually chose to fight immortals in an instant. He even made an offensive move. Who else could he lie to but him? Lie, he had to lie. Let him fix the swimming pool first, then find him a better job to do. Don't think about buying lottery tickets all day and spend a lot of money. Huang Yaoben did not know the identity of the immortals in front of him. He followed his own thoughts and said, "Since you can calculate my name and age, I believe you can also calculate my family. My family is very big, and there are neighbors left and right. They are not bad, but they used to have conflicts because of the land. Now, they can't own the land, but the previous conflict has always been there. That day, I came over with two ladies to play. Guess what I saw? Both of their families were barbecuing and had conflicts. When they were barbecuing, they didn't stop and competed with each other. They bought all the meat that they couldn't sell. There were many people in their family. There were many children, and the adults didn't like each other. The children didn't care about that and kept running around. The two children of the family ran to the barbecue area. When they smelled the aroma, they stood there and waited for food. The children were young and insensible. One was 3 years old and the other was 3.5 years old. Perhaps they felt that all the barbecued food belonged to them. When the barbecue was done, they reached out for it. The adults of the other family knew who they were. When they saw them reach out, they had no choice but to give each of them a skewer. Worried that they would hurt themselves while eating, they had to help take the meat down. Isn't this a normal thing? When you see other people's children, even if you have conflicts, you can't harm them, right? How bad is that person's heart? If anyone dares to do this, the Huang family will directly take action against them. In the end, when the family saw that their children were being taken care of, according to etiquette, they had to suppress their conflicts and get someone to send some food to the children of this family. Because of this small matter, the two families got in touch again and got along quite well. You immortals don't understand this. This is the influence of a good public environment that can accept all levels of society and provide relaxation and entertainment. Don't you think it's amazing? Are you scared? After giving a lecture to the immortals, Huang Yao's mood was as good as the weather. He said to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan proudly. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were really scared. Could this be the legendary hedonistic son of a rich family? If all hedonistic sons of a rich family had such talent, planes would be everywhere in the Tang dynasty in 10 years. Okay, when we go back in the future, we'll learn from the higher-ups and see if we can succeed. There are fewer people at the top, so it's not easy to gather. The higher the level of the people, the more despicable they are. Then, for their own selfish reasons, they will harm the people below. Zhang Xiaobao said, pick the food to be roasted and try it. Huang Yao took out money first, meaning that he was treating today. The immortals probably didn't have money on them. The three of them went to the butcher's place. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't refuse Huang Yao's bill. When they found out his identity in the future, they would treat him to a few meals. Zhang Xiaobao saw that Huang Yao was looking at the special meat frozen in the ice and said, "Just eat the mutton. There's no need for other things like snakes and mice." Huang Yao Ben readily followed the advice and said to the butcher, 5 pounds of mutton, cut it into pieces this big. Skewer it and use the bamboo skewers. Huang Yao measured it, it was about 1.5 centimeters in diameter. If it was too big, it would take a lot of effort to roast it with bamboo skewers. If it was too small, it wouldn't taste good and wouldn't be satisfying. The butcher quickly cut the meat according to the requirements. With a call, a few people came over, washed their hands, and busily skewered the meat together. The three of them bought a few vegetables and went to the place to choose the seasoning. Zhang Xiaobao didn't ask for the seasoning that was prepared by others. Instead, he tasted it himself. According to the year and the strength of the flavor, he ordered a few spices and seasonings. He didn't mix them together and sprinkled them separately. The barbecue rack was also paid for by Huang Yao. It was rented and cleaned, so he didn't need to care about anything. It only cost 2 coins per person, so it wasn't expensive. After everything was arranged, Huang Yao remembered the important matter and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Immortal, you see, my illness? It needs to be treated." Zhang Xiaobao replied. Chapter 1272. While Zhang Xiaobao was talking, he had already lit up the charcoal fire. Wang Wan was roasting a bunch of dried tofu, scallions, chives, and shredded ham. Because other food would take a long time to be eaten, this one could be eaten after brushing oil on it and flipping it casually. The fire was good and the speed was fast. It took less than half a minute. Huang Yao Ben glanced at it and also put a few skewers on the grill, but it was obvious that his mind was not on eating. Seeing that the fairy beside him was about to roast a bunch of skewers at the same time, he immediately went over and wanted to share. "Your illness is actually not an illness." Zhang Xiaobao signaled to Huang Yao Ben that he did not need to help. He twisted the whole bundle of skewers into a fan shape and gently knocked them on the grill. The water on the meat fell on the charcoal fire, making a sizzling sound and a fishy smell of water vapor rose. Then what is mine?" Huang Yao Ben asked and was flustered again. The charcoal fire was too red, and the skewers he put on the charcoal were already black. Zhang Xiaobao only glanced at him and knew that Huang Yao Ben did not do such work at home. What was there to panic about? Just pick up the skewers and it would be fine. Could it be that a playboy still thought about what Meng Zi said? But that was not what he meant. You have to be diligent in doing small things on a daily basis. Zhang Xiaobao advised Huang Yao Ben. Huang Yao Ben knew that he was referring to his current situation. He showed an embarrassed expression and explained, "When I was young, no one asked me to do it. When I grew up, no one asked me to do it. Therefore, I was afraid that people would laugh at me, so I did not do it." You can't not do it because you are afraid of being laughed at. Ridicule is a kind of belittling, but isn't it another way of encouraging? What is there to be afraid of being laughed at? Know your shortcomings and improve a little bit. There will be a time when you do well. Those who laugh at others are not as good as others. Through their previous conversation, Zhang Xiaobao admired Zhang Xiaobao a lot, so he said a few more words. If he were an ordinary person, Zhang Xiaobao would not say that. Being a good teacher might not be good to others. That was why there was a saying that good medicine was bitter to the mouth and good advice was unpleasant to the ear. Huang Yao was very smart. Imitating Zhang Xiaobao, he flipped the meat skewers in his hand back and forth. He echoed, "That's right. Those who laugh at others see other people's shortcomings. Using one's own length to compare with others' shortcomings, one's own shortcoming will last forever. There should be 3 people walking together, each one has their own teacher. Taking the other's long and making up for one's shortcoming. Therefore, those who laugh at others are not as good as those who are laughed at and are not ashamed of their own shortcoming. What are you talking about? While Zhang Xiaobao and Huang Yaobao were talking, a waiter came over with a small jar of wine in his hand. Hearing the waiter's words, he blankly asked. Wang Wan knew that the waiter came over to give a jar of wine, and it was very likely that the waiter paid for it himself. After thinking for a while, she did not pay for it. Instead, she said to the waiter. Of the 2 of them, one said that you don't usually work, and the other said that when I was young, my family didn't let me do it. Later, when I grew up and wanted to learn, I was afraid that others would laugh at me. Then, the person who laughed at me said, "Don't be afraid. If others laugh at you, you should think of it as the reason for your hard work. Study seriously, the person who laughed at you is not as good as you." The other person said, "That's right. The person who digested me used his own strong points to compare with me, a person who just started learning. When he won, he felt that he was good, but in fact, he would never be able to improve on his weak points. Looking at 3 people, one of them will definitely be able to be my teacher. That is to say, the person who laughed at others is not as good as him in terms of modesty and learning. When he compared himself, he would be inferior to him." When the waiter, Yang Dongshui, heard Wang Wan's words, his eyes lit up and he nodded happily. "Thank you, I know. I will definitely learn well in the future. When I see others, I will first think of what they are better than me. This jar of wine is my gift to the immortals. No, it's a salute." Wang Wan and Wei Wei nodded and said to the waiter, "Yang Dongshui, we are fated to meet. Go, ask him and let him take your wine." Zhang Xiaobao, who was grilling something, was depressed. "Why is it me again? He gave you the wine but you didn't pay. You insisted on talking to him and then asked me to take it. If I take the wine, I must give him some benefits. It said that we are fated to meet, and I am respected by him. At least I should enlighten him." Zhang Xiaobao complained in his heart. He glanced at Wang Wan, which meant, "It's me. If it were someone else, they would have been cheated to death by you." Wang Wan blinked and changed to an eggplant. She took the wire and put it on the grill. Her meaning was, "You can come back later and grill the eggplant with garlic. Hurry up and tell the waiter." After the 2 of them silently communicated, Zhang Xiaobao compromised. He moved the uncooked meat skewers to Xiaohua's area and turned to take the jar of wine. He said to Yang Dongshui, "It is better to teach a man how to fish than to give him a fish. It is better to teach you a skill than to give you a million. Go and get a pen and paper." When Yang Dongshui heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he was so excited that his whole body trembled. His legs seemed to be frozen, and he moved woodenly. He turned around with great effort and walked back a few steps before his legs gave out. He looked back at the immortals with fluttering hair and beard in disbelief. The muscles on his face twitched irregularly as he took large strides and ran away. Huang Yao looked on enviously. He thought to himself, a jar of wine can get so many benefits. Then he thought of the guests he had invited today and began to look forward to it. With the money he had spent, he could buy many jars of wine. Wang Wan's eyes smiled into the shape of a crescent moon. Her face was full of happiness. This was the man she had chosen. It seemed that nothing was difficult for him. He had an idea in the blink of an eye. Yang Dongshui left quickly and returned just as quickly. He carried a pile of things, including a brush, ink, paper, and an inkstone. When he got close, he pulled out the board under his arm and held it with his hand so that the immortals could use it as a cushion. "Don't you know how to get a pencil?" Zhang Xiaobao first looked at the eggplant that Wang Wan had placed on the wire. He cut it open with a knife and turned back to grind the ink. Immortals also use pencils? Yang Dongshui asked embarrassedly. Huang Yao said, immortals are omnipotent. Fortunately, Zhang Xiaobao had been practicing with Wang Wan since he was young. With the guidance of the old men, he was not afraid of calligraphy. He picked up the brush and thought about it. He moved his wrist and wrote on the paper in block letters. After a while, he finished writing and told the little shop assistant, Yang Dongshui, remember, don't use other cheap ingredients. Because the sweetness of the sugar varies, you have to taste it carefully every time. Don't put too much in it, especially for children who like to eat it. It's not good for their health if they eat too much. The things in the water have to be cleaned and the internal organs must be salted. Yang Dongshui nodded repeatedly, I don't dare, I don't dare. I will listen to Old Immortal. Old Immortal, what is written on it? If I ask someone and they learn it, what will I do? Old Immortal, you passed it to me. You can't read. Zhang Xiaobao's face changed. My family was originally from the West. When I came here with my family, I was already 13 years old. Until now, I haven't been registered. My father said that it's better to have more labor. Once I'm registered, I have to go to school. So, I've been like this for now. Yang Dongshui explained. Huang Yao looked at Yang Dongshui in surprise and asked, who gave you your name? Who gave you the health certificate? The health certificate has nothing to do with one's place of birth. Health is health. My name was given by a fortune teller. He didn't spend any money. He said that the willow beside the embankment would be the tree that flows east. Yang Dongshui said. Huang Yao understood that the little shop assistant didn't even have a surname before. He sighed and said, that fortune teller was good. The Yellow River and the Yangtze River both flow east. He hoped that you would come from there and protect your country like other people in this country. Yang Dongshui still nodded, I swear, I will be good to this country. In fact, I am a person from this country. Really, living here is better than living in the past. Let me ask, who should I look for to read the words? I have to listen to others while doing it. Otherwise, I can't remember. My family is illiterate. You. Huang Yao was in a dilemma. He couldn't teach him now. What if he looked for someone else and they learned it? After thinking for a while, Huang Yao had an idea. How about this, when you have time, go to the Zhang family and Wang family's restaurants, Hai Yunjian and Bai Hai Yin Sha. Grab one of them and say that you have found a way to make money. Ask the person you grab to teach you personally. That will work. Won't they learn it and use it themselves? Yang Dongshui finally understood the pain of not being able to read. He couldn't find anyone to teach him a prescription given by a deity. Huang Yao sneered, don't worry. If you look for them, they won't take your things. They will teach you seriously until they have taught you. They will help you keep it a secret and even tell you how not to let others learn it easily. Why? The shop assistant didn't understand. You still have the nerve to say that you are from Tang. Because you can use this to make money. When the time comes, you can teach it to your family and go to school in your hometown. If your family is rich, why would they care about a laborer like you? Huang Yao shook his head and thought that this person was stupid. Why would the Zhang family and Wang family covet your little thing? I still have a younger brother and sister. Yang Dongshui meant that there were many children at home and many laborers. They are all going to school. Let me tell you, if you can't trust the Zhang family and Wang family, there is no one in life that you can trust. In fact, you only need to ask them and they will investigate your background. When the time comes, you can't even not go to school. Your father can't stop you at all. Huang Yao said to Yang Dongshui as he helped him fold the paper that had already dried up. There was a glimmer of hope in Yang Dongshui's eyes. He had always been looking forward to learning to read. He looked gratefully at the two deities and the son of a rich family in front of him. He knelt on the ground and respectfully kowtowed 3 times. He got up, picked up the things, and ran away. Huang Yao revealed a smile. Just now, Yang Dongshui didn't say the word thank you. He was telling him that a big favor couldn't be expressed with words. Perhaps he didn't understand the meaning of these 5 words, but he expressed it. Qinghong, which skill did you teach him? Wang Wan didn't see the words on the paper and asked Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao was almost amused by Wang Wan's question. What skill? Do you know how many skills there are in total? Thinking this in his heart, he said, the meatball and fishball skills. I told him to buy the meat that others didn't sell that day, go home and chop it into stuffing. Mix it with the river snails and other things with shells to make it. Then add starch, steam it, and sell it. Chapter 1273. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, she frowned and said, You're asking him to buy the leftover meat and the things in the river. Aren't you afraid that he'll die from eating them? Leftover meat isn't bad meat. It's not easy to sell it the next day, and it's not good to freeze it either. People who eat it will know at a glance. It's cheap when you buy it. Also, I said to throw it away overnight because starch decomposes quickly and it's easy to breed more bacteria. It's troublesome to clean the things in the river first, but don't tell me that the Blue Sea Silver Sand restaurant doesn't have a lot of procedures and isn't troublesome. I also asked him to marinate it with salt first to kill the parasites. Make it at night and sell it in the morning. When others roast it and heat it up, there's basically no problem. You know the skill I taught you. It's the second skill. The things in the river aren't chopped up, but wrapped in a ball of meat. The outer part is put in the mouth and it's easy to bite through. It also has a strong meat and seasoning aroma. The inner part is the fishy smell of the creatures in the water. At the same time, it's chewy. Both adults and children like to eat it. Zhang Xiaobao explained. Wang Wan thought for a moment and asked, Water creatures are cold by nature. It's easy to eat them and harm the body. Western medicine diagnoses microbes and bacteria. In Chinese medicine, cold damages the spleen and stomach. What if children get sick from eating too much? Impossible. How can you not know our prescription? Seasonings can be said to promote and counter each other. Since I wrote it, I naturally know the trick. Zhang Xiaobao explained again. Wang Wan understood. Xiaobao meant that she didn't know that he sold 13 spices. She wouldn't consider such a thing. That, I know. There's ginger and garlic in the seasoning, and there's a lot of meat on the outside. There's only one thing inside. If you want to eat too much, you'll feel bloated. Old immortal, speaking of illnesses, there's one waiting to be saved. Huang Yao looked at Zhang Xiaobao eagerly. Wang Wan was relieved and continued to look at her eggplant. Zhang Xiaobao still had to take care of Huang Yao. He said to him, Your illness isn't an illness, it's fate. Your fate is wood, right? Yes, I am the wood life. I have the 8 characters of birth. Huang Yao was originally full of energy. Wood people are afraid of insects. It's your life that you're afraid of insects. But the 5 elements reinforce and counteract each other, so water should be eliminated. Am I right? Zhang Xiaobao's fake hair and beard were blown up by the wind again. Huang Yao felt the same way. He glared and said, Yes, that water. It can't be that it's fine to just let me drink it, right? I drink water every day. Not really. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. Since it is your destiny, you should combine the numbers of heaven, earth, and man. The Tao of heaven is indistinct and difficult to find. The Tao of earth is determined by the heavens. Therefore, the indistinct is indistinct. The heavens and the earth contain water. Water comes from the heavens and the earth. Huang Yao was clearly nervous. It would be strange if he wasn't nervous since this was related to the heavens and earth. Wang Wan held back her laughter. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Zhang Xiaobao. He really knew how to make things up. What water of heaven and earth? Why haven't I heard of it before? Why don't you just say that you're digging a hole to build a swimming pool? Huang Yao didn't know that he was being tricked. He asked again, Old Immortal, how do I replenish the water of heaven and earth? Dig the earth, build the pool, and use the harmony of the people. Zhang Xiaobao squinted his eyes and looked at the sky, as if he was trying to understand the Tao of heaven. Old Immortal, I know about digging the earth and building the pool, but what about the harmony of the people? Huang Yao didn't think about money. He had money. The harmony of the people is when you put water in the hole you dug. Someone has to go in. Zhang Xiaobao started to talk about the key points. Oh, do I have to drown them? No, Old Immortal. If I really do that, other people will drown on the first day. I don't think I'll be able to see the sun on the second day. Do you think Xiaobao and Cuckoo are vegetarians? They will make me die miserably. I really can't do that, Old Immortal. Huang Yao Ben was scared out of his wits. Luckily, he was sick and could hold on for a few days. If he really did what Old Immortal said, he wouldn't have a chance. His entire family would be implicated, including his uncle who was an official in the capital. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Huang Yao Ben and thought to himself, why aren't you taking the hint? Weren't you very smart just now, using your brain to think? After that, he thought that Huang Yao Ben was in the middle of it and couldn't think of anything. He could only remind him personally, it's not death, the harmony of the people is life. The weather is hot and the children will lose a cool place to go. Also, swimming is good for the body. Do you understand? Huang Yao Ben blinked and looked at the sky. He then nodded and said happily, I understand, I understand. I will go home immediately and get people to build a swimming pool for the children in the school. Use the best materials. I will personally supervise it. You can't do it in the city. There is no space in the city. It needs at least 9%. You can build the new city. It's not bad. There is still space there. Also, you can find the best construction company. I believe the cost will be reduced. Zhang Xiaobao quickly corrected him. If they built it in the city, what would happen to the new city? In the future, the city would need to be renovated. Wouldn't it be a waste of money, manpower, and resources? Huang Yao Ben didn't even think and said, right, I forgot. There is still the new city. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo built it. It will be very useful in the future. I will not find other construction companies. I will find them directly. The quality is the best in the Tang. I guarantee there won't be any problems. Also, their fees are very reasonable. It's just that my family has a lot of money and will ask for more. It doesn't matter, they can ask for more. After all, their construction company is not for profit. They will use the extra money to build the school and other basic things. Okay, I will do as Old Immortal says. But, Old Immortal, I have worms in my stomach. Can I still make it? Don't die before the swimming pool is built. I still want to live for a few more decades. Life comes before the heart. First, tell them that you want to build 9 swimming pools. Then, take the money and let others build them. Although they are not fully built yet, the heavenly Tao will not ignore you. That is to say, as long as you decide and start investing, it will be the beginning of the treatment. When the swimming pools are fully built, the children will swim in them and your illness will be completely cured. Zhang Xiaobao did not want Huang Yaoben to lose hope. That would be really painful for him. He was helping others, but he ended up harming them. It would be a shadow in his heart in the future. Huang Yaoben was relieved. Okay, I will go now. Don't worry. With the two of us here, what are you worried about? Zhang Xiaobao was still hoping to interact more with Huang Yaoben and see what he was suitable for. Then, he would make arrangements for him. Now that Huang Yaoben had left, he would have to find a way to interact with him personally. The information sent back previously was not accurate. Perhaps it was because there was not enough time to analyze it. Oh, I am not worried. With the immortals here, unless I do something that harms Tang dynasty, it will be fine. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo will not come to deal with me. Huang Yaoben believed in the immortals in front of him. He believed that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would not be able to stop them if they wanted to take his life. Zhang Xiaobao took the meat skewers again and looked at them. They were cooked. He sprinkled some seasoning on them and then looked at the eggplant in front of Wang Wan. The outer skin of the eggplant had been roasted black, and there were quite a few of them. Huang Yaoben leaned over and looked at the eggplant. He sniffed and suddenly said, "It is still tender on the inside. It is the same as the other places in Tang dynasty. The people there are sad. For example, young Dong Shui. Yeah, I guess they have already started." Zhang Xiaobao looked to the west and mumbled. Chapter 1274. Wang Wan also looked towards the west. Like Zhang Xiaobao, what she cared about the most was not the attack on Duoshi, but the rescue and revenge. The revenge against Jinla and the rescue of the people in the west. This was because this kind of thing was more direct to the citizens of the country. The citizens only supported the large army in battle to show the strength of the country. However, the citizens were more concerned about when the imperial court would come to save them if they were in a dangerous situation one day. If they were bullied, how would the imperial court take revenge? Wang Wan understood. Once all of this was done, there would not be a situation where the people were easily bought over by other countries. It was fine if one was weak, as long as there was a strong and powerful country behind them. For example, when the princess of Jincheng was married to Tubo, she had a hard time for a period of time, but now she had the final say in the entire region. She was still the same person, but what changed was the country behind her. Therefore, when her status rose, she would use her own efforts to protect her country. Now, she had to focus on that. Old Immortal, the meat is ready. Huang Yaoben did not know what was in the west, but when he saw the change in the color and size of the meat, he quickly reminded him. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the meat, nodded, and began to sprinkle seasonings. He put a little salt for his portion, but it was just enough to have a taste. For Wang Wan, he put pepper. He did not know why she liked to eat this. As for Huang Yaoben, he put cumin, pepper, salt, and mustard. He also took out a bag with many small pockets. He pinched out some chili powder from one of the pockets and carefully sprinkled it on the meat. He tried not to waste it, because there were many people who could not eat it. Chili. Old Immortal, you actually have chili. Last year, the uncle in the capital sent a gene back. After eating it, my whole body felt comfortable. Huang Yaoben rubbed his hands and said happily. He did not say that because of his low status in the family, he could only eat a little. Although he had a lot of pocket money, he could not enjoy the good things in the family. When Zhang Xiaobao passed the meat skewers that belonged to Huang Yaoben to him, Huang Yaoben used his fastest speed to peel off 2 pieces of meat and chewed vigorously in his mouth. It was so spicy that tears were about to flow out of his eyes, but he still didn't stop chewing. After swallowing the 2 pieces of meat, Huang Yaoben let out a long breath and stuck out his tongue. Delicious. This is the greatest happiness in life. Another person who felt happy was a merchant who had come from the border between the Great Tang and India. The merchant's surname was Lu, and his first name was Bo. Lu Bo was here to trade with the locals. Don't look down on the border area. It was a remote location, and the locals didn't have a good life. But the merchants liked to come here. They brought very ordinary things from the Great Tang, like salt, sugar, vinegar, cloth, and so on. They could trade for a lot of furs and medicinal herbs with the locals and sell them back at home. The price would be more than 100 times higher, and there was no danger. It was unlike before, where they were afraid of encountering bandits or bandits who could change their identities at any time. When they were robbing people, they were bandits, but on normal days, they were civilians. Ever since the Great Tang's imperial court sent troops to clean up the place a few times, the road was stable. Lu Bo relied on this road to make a living, and he knew very well what had happened in the past. There was a bandit gang of about 200 people who lived on this road. They stole half of the goods, and everyone tacitly agreed to it. Sometimes, they would take the initiative to visit the mountain and deliver the goods first. This way, they could pay less money. Later on, the leader of the bandit gang died of old age, and the new leader changed the original rules. Not only did he rob, but he also killed. The merchants who relied on this road to make a living had no chance of survival. At that time, the imperial court directly mobilized the army. The bandit gang lived in the area and had a better understanding of the terrain. After losing half of their members, the remaining members changed greatly, and the army couldn't do anything for a while. In the end, just when the bandit gang thought that they were invincible and were the local tyrants, the strong protection team of the Zhang family and Wang family appeared. Lu Bo experienced it personally. He brought the goods here, hoping that he was lucky and could avoid it. Because the imperial court's army was also here, he stayed beside the military camp and found a safe place. He heard the helpless conversation of the soldiers in the army and saw more than 20 people coming from the east. They had the pattern of rice seedlings embroidered on their clothes. At dusk every day, more than 20 people left the camp. Each of them carried a big bag and went into the mountain area in 3 groups. At midnight, the army sent some people out. After dawn, the people who went out came back. Every 2 people dragged a corpse. Lu Bo saw clearly that they were not members of the protection team. From their clothes, he could tell that they were all members of the bandit gang. At noon, another group of soldiers went out. When the sky turned dark, they still dragged the corpses. At dawn, the people of the protection team appeared in the camp. 6 people were beaten and covered in blood, kneeling there like dead dogs. From then on, the journey was unimpeded, and there was not a single case of robbery on the road again. It was also at that time that Lu Bo deeply understood how powerful the protection team was. In the past 2 months, there were rumors that the group of more than 20 people were the original guards of the Zhang family and Wang family, the strong protection team number 0. It was said that there were 2 similar teams in the Tang dynasty. One was to protect the emperor, and the other was to carry out missions for the Zhang family and Wang family. Now, Lu Bo saw people wearing the same clothes and the same symbol looking in this direction from afar. Lu Bo suddenly felt that life was so beautiful. He was about to give up hope of returning home alive. He originally came here to exchange things with the locals, but he was caught by the duo cannibals when they hired the locals to carry wood. They did not say that he was caught, but that he was invited and paid. He did not want to come. He did not want to be a bookkeeper for the duo cannibals. He wanted to go home after exchanging goods and use part of the money he earned to buy a set of pearl jewelry for his wife. He also wanted to test his youngest son's mathematics. But the duo cannibals did not agree. They forced him into the team, and so did the people who followed him. Including him, there were a total of 25 people, plus the 166 local people who carried wood. He had been worried. Sure enough, 6 days ago, the duo cannibals tore off their hypocritical mask and revealed their ferocious teeth. Good words turned into knives and sticks. 2 locals were killed, and more people were beaten. As for him, he was more clear about the situation, so he warned the 24 people who followed him to be obedient and not to make unnecessary resistance to avoid casualties. There were still relatives waiting at home. Then, like a spy who had betrayed the motherland, he tried to please the duo cannibals and worked hard to manage the people who came from the exchange place. With his management skills, he arranged the 189 people in an orderly manner. Unfortunately, 2 people died. Otherwise, there would be 191 people. Just yesterday, he overheard the duo cannibals' conversation. He knew that they would meet the regular army of his country in about 4 days' journey. He also knew that the duo cannibals planned to use them as meat shields. He was sad and worried, but more than that, he was sad and angry. This morning, he found an opportunity to discuss with the 24 people who followed him. Everyone unanimously decided that when the duo cannibals confronted the national army, they would turn around and fight the duo cannibals. They could not drag the country down. So, the 25 people who made the decision to sacrifice had a smile on their faces. It was a smile of facing death with equanimity. Lu Bo thought of death. He wanted to die as heroically as possible. He believed that the imperial court would take good care of his family. But some people did not want him to die, so he saw the strong protection team. These people used binoculars to observe the entire camp from outside the range of the bows and arrows. They were brazen. He also felt the tension of the duo cannibals. They tied the arms of the people who carried the wood and tied ropes between their legs so that they could not take big steps. They pushed them to the front and shouted to the protection team, saying that if they did not put down their weapons and come over, they would kill them. Lu Bo felt his heart beat faster. He took a deep breath and planned to shout to the protection team to shoot. However, before he could shout, the people from the seedling protection team had already fired. The gunshots broke the silence of the confrontation. One by one, the man-eaters fell to the ground. However, the person carrying the log, Lu Bo, and the rest were fine. After firing, the people from the seedling protection team retreated very quickly. They disappeared into the jungle in the blink of an eye. Lu Bo was dumbfounded. Seeing that he and others were still alive, he was very excited. The duo cannibals were dumbfounded. Did they really dare to attack? Did they not care about their own people? The duo cannibals shouted and scolded one by one. They vented their anger on the people carrying the wood and punched and kicked. Lu Bo rolled his eyes and suddenly thought of an idea. He quickly went to find the leader of the duo cannibals, a man named Senki Fong Dong Na Lu Gu. It sounded like a very awkward name, but when people called him that, it sounded like this. He did not know who was whose father and who was whose son. He reckoned that one of the names had his father in it. Lu Bo disdained the other party's name in his heart and felt much happier. Relying on the trust he gained from his usual good behavior, he found Senki Fong Dong Na Lu Gu's location. Senki was angry. When he saw Lu Bo coming over, he stood up and wanted to beat him up. Just as he was about to walk up to Lu Bo shook his head and said directly, "I have a good idea." Senki stopped. "What do you mean?" "I know you want to use us to scare the other party. It's a good idea, but you're wrong. In fact, there's a better way." Lu Bo did not want to be beaten up for nothing. Even if he killed the other party in the end, he would still feel the pain. He thought in his heart, just wait for the protection team to find a way to save us. See if I don't teach you a lesson. However, he had a lackey smile on his face and continued, "Have you noticed a problem? Hurry up and say it." Senki did not like this way of speaking and revealed a fierce expression. Say it, say it. It's that. Just now, when they opened fire, they only hit your people and did not hit anyone else. This means that the other party did not want to hurt their own people, so the one who fired was the sniper. Those who stood behind the people you tied up were not hit because the sniper was afraid of missing. I thought about it. They care about the lives of their people, but they will not be threatened by you to put down their weapons. Do you think you can threaten them all the way to the capital by killing their people if they don't surrender? Obviously, it's impossible. If it were you, what would you do? As for me, I'm just thinking that since they won't compromise to surrender, can we use their people to block the front while we launch an attack from behind? Let's try using a small group of people first and keep probing to see where their bottom line is. How about this? Next time, you guys push 25 of us up. We have their country's census register. You guys charge and see if they will fight. How about it? Lu Bo shared his idea. In fact, he was thinking that if they were to encounter each other next time, all 25 of them would suddenly lie down and the seedling protection team would be able to shoot them with their machine guns. Then, they would be able to rush over and be safe. Lu Bo believed that the protection team would definitely be able to seize this opportunity. They were the best of the best and had first-class reaction speed. Chapter 1275. Shang-Chi did not know how sinister the merchants of the Tang Empire were, nor did he understand how patriotic the people of a country without Allah were. He only thought that his God, Allah, was the most powerful and worthy of his sacrifice. However, he did not know that there was a civilization called Yanhuang that existed longer than Allah. Shang-Chi thought about it and found someone to discuss it. Finally, he decided to use Lu Bo's method and try it out. The trick of making people surrender directly was not easy to use. When Shang-Chi was happy, he rewarded Lu Bo with a lot of meat as a reward. At the same time, he made an exception and allowed Lu Bo to take a hot bath. Lu Bo took a bath as fast as he could and was very worried when he went back. He was afraid that the protection team would attack the camp at night. He had read in the newspapers that the special rescue team could sacrifice themselves at critical moments to protect the person they were rescuing. Lu Bo did not wish for any loss to the people in the sapling protection team. There were more than 600 people in the sapling protection team. It was not easy to nurture the sapling protection team. It was not worth it to exchange a life for a life during the rescue. He should think of a way to make it easier for the protection team during the rescue. When the rescue was successful, more than 600 duo people were nothing. As long as the journey was long enough, one protection team could torture them to death. However, the duo people came separately. Not only were there more than 600 people, there were also other people who were threatening the people in the country. Or rather, the people of the Tang Empire were on other roads, hoping that the situation there would be better. Then, first of all, they must kill or capture all the duo people here. If they let them go, more would die. Lu Bo had to pretend to be happy even though he was worried. He ate meat and shouted happily with the 24 people who followed him. His hand was writing on the ground for the 24 people to see. The 24 people had a determined look in their eyes. They decided that if they met the protection team tomorrow, they would do the same. They were very excited that the country did not give up on them. Moreover, they knew in advance and started the rescue. Otherwise, the duo cannibals would have suddenly pushed them out when they encountered the country's regular army. Looking at the situation, after the country received the news, they sent elite people to intercept and rescue them on the road as fast as possible. Moreover, it was the special forces of the 24-hour, all-weather, all-terrain special forces that were dispatched, the strong protection team. If this was not love. Lu Bo saw that his subordinates had agreed. He worriedly wrote out his guess. What if the protection team attacks the camp at night? Before we came here, we heard that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had arrived in Idyll. Presumably, their intelligence personnel had received the news and sent people to help them. They knew that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were resolute in this aspect. No matter where, how far away, or how difficult the process was, for the sake of one person, they could mobilize the entire nation's strength. This was even more thorough than the previous Han dynasty. At that time, those who offended the great Han dynasty would be punished for their actions. If it were Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, they wouldn't care if they offended them openly or secretly. If they felt that they were a threat to them, they would eliminate them first. They wouldn't even allow them to scold them. After all, dignity was more important than life. That was why domestic businessmen were so obedient. Part of it was because they were afraid of Xiao Bao, and part of it was out of respect. Businessmen often went abroad. Without contact with the outside world, they wouldn't know how fortunate it was to have the protection of the country. The 24 people thought and began to think of a solution. They wanted to survive, but they didn't want to sacrifice more Tang people. They would only lose one person, but their family would be taken care of. Therefore, sacrificing themselves was the last choice at the critical moment. Then, how could they cooperate with the protection team? When they were saving themselves, the most important thing was to reduce the casualties of their own rescue personnel during the rescue process. The 25 people led by Lu Bo thought as they ate. They were eating venison, which tasted good, so they would let out happy cries from time to time to avoid suspicion. After a while, one of them wrote on the ground, "Do you still remember the Monopoly game? It's the kind with interesting portraits, especially for children between 6 and 2 years old. The parents are required to cooperate with the game. The characters are all models, and there are even springs. When playing, the parents have to cooperate with the game to make the children feel more specific and profound." Yes. Another person wrote, "This game is not popular, and the cost is too high. Not all parents have the time to cooperate." The person who wrote before continued, "There is a character called Richito. He is a character who is good at calculation and unwilling to be taken advantage of. When the parents cooperate, the oral language is, 'I'll let you take advantage of me once.' Greedy for small gains will lead to big losses. I still have a way, humph." Yes, there is him. Another person wrote, "Don't worry about the specific character he shows. As long as we let the protection team see him, I believe they will guess it. We will cooperate." This person wrote again. Lu Bo saw the words and was in a dilemma. He wrote, "How can we let the protection team see him? Formation, torches." This person wrote. The others' eyes lit up, and they immediately thought of the relationship. Lu Bo thought about it and wrote, "Eat now, practice standing. There may only be one chance later. Everyone, focus." Therefore, they ate in the tent and walked back and forth like dancing. When others saw them through the shadows of the tent, they would think that they were happy eating. After practicing a few times, Lu Bo stopped and wrote, "Get ready, I'll discuss. Don't go to the wrong position later. If you find the position wrong, adjust in time." After writing, he stuffed the last bit of meat into his mouth. Lu Bo came to Sang-Chi's tent again and told Sang-Chi that they had a good formation that could arrange the hostages and their own people together, making it difficult for the enemy to distinguish them. Sang-Chi thought about it and agreed. First, they changed their clothes and let the hostages wear the same clothes as the cannibals. Then, they formed a formation. Lu Bo led 24 men, each holding a torch, and walked around. From time to time, he would say what a certain person should do. As soon as they walked, the torches they held formed a pattern of small dots. When seen from a distance and from a high place, they would consciously connect the dots into a line. The protection team did not evacuate at all. Instead, they watched from a mountain in the distance. According to the plan, it should be to give the cannibals time to prepare and think. If the cannibals really killed, they could only choose to attack. It was impossible for them to throw their weapons and surrender. If they threw their weapons when others asked them to, how stupid would they be? They were considering how long it would take for more people to fall into the trap. Once they ate the poisoned food, they would be able to rescue the people. During the day, they had discovered that there were some people in the group who were not from the border. The appearance and attire of this small group all indicated that they were truly Tang people and had a place of origin. Leader, look, there's a problem. While the protection team was waiting and resting, the person in charge of observation came to the leader and whispered. This leader was from the Zero Protection team. His surname was Wang, and he followed the main family's surname, Wang Miao. It was a very feminine name. When he was born, there were 3 small rivers near his home that supplied water to the fields. Therefore, he was named the 3 Rivers. However, he was a pure man and had very strong combat power. He and the other 2 members of the number 0 seedling protection team led the team. The people they led were the number 1 team, which was directly transferred from the main family's personal guards. In other words, the current operation could only succeed and could not fail. Hearing the sound, Wang Miao picked up the binoculars and was stunned. It felt very familiar. He muttered, "This picture is, leader, it's Richido. 3 days before we came out, my child played with this. His saying was, I'll let you take advantage of me this time. Greedy for small gains will lead to big losses. I still have a way, the informant reminded him. Wang Miao suddenly understood. No wonder it was so familiar. The children at home had special care, guidance, and education in the inner courtyard. It was much better than ordinary schools. Just the various tools used were not something that ordinary places could afford. During education, other than the major lessons, the rest was taught according to their aptitude. According to the words of the young master and young lady, every child was a star in the sky. They had their own place and brilliance. Even if they were treated as fireflies, they should fly around and not be caught in the palm of one's hand. Therefore, it was most reassuring to leave the children in the inner courtyard. They would definitely have the best games of Tang, including that character, Richido. Wang Miao did not think that what he saw was a coincidence. Although the positions and changes of the torch were not correct at times, it represented the various forms of Richido in a child's game. Wang Miao narrowed his eyes. He did not think that the captured person was so bored that he held a torch and played with a jigsaw puzzle. He was about to lose his life. Little Nine, if you were in the other party's situation, what would you think? Wang Miao asked the informant softly. Me? Little Nine pointed at himself and then lowered his head to think. When he raised his head again, he said, "Let me put myself in this situation. I would think that Tang has finally sent people to save me. They came so quickly and in such a timely manner. Furthermore, they sent out a strong protection team. How would they save us? Attack? Night attack? I have the same thoughts as you." Wang Miao nodded. Then why did they choose such a character? Since they know how to play games, if they want us to save them, the best character should be the confused bug, right? The confused bug is the character model of a 4-year-old child. His words are, "Daddy, Mommy, save me. I can't find my way home. I've been cheated again. I don't even have the money to buy candy, right?" Yes, dazed bug is the best one. In this situation, since they know about Richido, it's impossible that they don't know about the other characters. Based on my analysis, they are all rich people, or at least businessmen. They have played the same game before, and they even played it with their children. However, the children usually choose cute and confused characters, similar to themselves. I don't believe that all of their children would choose Richido. There must be some who would choose the confused bug. At the same time, the confused bug's words are suitable for them to express that they are in urgent need of rescue. Little Nine analyzed. Wang Miao took out a cigarette. Cigars were supplied by special personnel. They could quickly replenish the body's nicotine. Of course, there would be addiction to smoking, but it was different from drug addiction. It would not make people stubbornly dependent on it. Wang Miao used his clothes to cover his mouth and took 2 puffs. He slowly exhaled and said, "There are very smart people among them. They are worried that we will attack at night and cause us losses, so they are using this method to remind us. At the same time, they will know that this person or group of people should have a relative position there. Otherwise, they will not be able to start the puzzle." "Then what should we do?" Little Nine asked. "Adjust the strategy slightly. Leave behind the canned food we prepared. At the same time, write a letter to the cannibals and write a poem at the critical moment. I believe that they will be able to guess it. Tomorrow's confrontation will be cancelled. Immediately send a message back to ask about the situation. I want to know who the puzzle is, his education, and the composition of his family." Wang Miao quickly made a decision. He was worried that the cooperation between the 2 sides would not be good enough. Chapter 1276. After working on the jigsaw puzzle for an hour, Lu Bo and the others were tired. They did not know if the people of the sapling protection team understood what they meant. Anyway, they had done what they could and should do. The rest was up to fate. The duo people were very satisfied with the result of the rehearsal. They found that if they followed the formation, the other party did not dare to shoot. The bullets would fly past one person and hit another. Shang-Chi was especially happy. He rewarded Lu Bo with some meat and told them to sleep well. Tomorrow, they would use this formation to deal with the Tang soldiers. What he did not understand was that the bullet penetration of the Tang soldiers' rifles was deliberately designed. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan felt that the probability of using this kind of gun to hit a person was very high. The penetrating injury could also make people lose their fighting strength. When cleaning up the battlefield, there were still pistols to hold the line. Therefore, when making the guns, they made them according to their previous 3 and 8 covers. At the same time, they also made a lot of box cannons. Although the muzzle of the box cannons always jumped up when shooting, it depended on how it was used. One was used to shoot at the waist, and the other was used to put the gun flat. Holding the gun with both hands and shooting flat, people who were good at shooting could shoot like a machine gun. However, in addition to such guns, there were also bullets and guns with a very good stopping effect. Together with the use of strong penetrating ability, they complemented each other. This was especially true for snipers. Their bullets would not penetrate, for fear of hurting people who should not be hurt. Moreover, even a gun with strong penetrating ability could be used to not penetrate people by using a simple method. It would make the bullet roll and stay in the person's body. Shang-Chi felt that with the formation, the enemy would not dare to shoot. In fact, even if there was no formation, as long as the person beside the hostage was not targeted, one would lose a life if there was a mistake. Amidst Lu Bo's worry and Shang-Chi's happiness, the night passed quickly. When they woke up in the morning, the moon had not disappeared. The sun had risen, forming a beautiful sun and moon hanging together. After falling out, the duo people no longer gave the people at the border any face. Affected by the march, the duo people would eat in the morning, but the people who were threatened could not even see a mouthful of porridge. The people living at the border finally knew who was good to them. In the past, they thought that the Tang Empire was very far away from them and was not as close as India. They thought that they had the final say in their lives and that everyone who came into contact with them had to exchange goods with them. In their eyes, there were only benefits and benefits. There was no sense of belonging. Even if some people went to the Great Tang to earn more money, in their eyes, it was just more money. They didn't belong to either side. But yesterday's experience made them realize that they belonged to the Great Tang, because the Great Tang had come to rescue them. Previously, they were envious of the Tang Empire's soldiers who had specially come to save Lu Bo and the others. However, when they realized that the Tang Empire's soldiers did not shoot at the cannibals they were holding, they realized that they were afraid of being shot. At that moment, they were moved. Whoever was good to them, they would be good to them. When they were in danger, they were willing to repay whoever saved their lives with their lives. At the same time, they were filled with resentment towards Lu Bo and the others. They felt that Lu Bo and the others had no conscience. Their people had come to save them and had chased them so far, but they were still helping the enemy. They should die and be struck by lightning. Therefore, when they woke up in the morning and saw that Lu Bo and the others also received some fried noodles and water, the people at the border looked at them with eyes full of resentment. When they set off, the team moved very slowly. The cannibals looked around vigilantly, afraid that they would be shot. The hot weather and the pressure in their hearts made them sweat a lot. Lu Bo's 25 people were also sweating, and their eyes were bloodshot. Seeing that the sun was high in the sky, the cannibals began to prepare to eat. Their meal was very simple. There were two types, one was roasted, and the other was fried. The roasted meat was meat, but there wasn't much fresh meat for them to roast. They were all roasted very salty meat in the past. They didn't have a pot to fry it, so they brought fried rice and fried noodles. The fried noodles were processed by the people at the border. The so-called meal was to stop and be vigilant while stuffing water into their stomachs. There was still no share for the people at the border. They were only given a little at night so that they wouldn't starve to death. Lu Bo and the other 25 people were divided into 6 portions of fried rice. It was much worse than the fried noodles in the morning. The rice was even fried, and there wasn't any taste of salt in it. 25 people were divided into 6 portions. Each person could only eat a little, and there wasn't much water, unless they encountered a river. Looking at the food the cannibals ate, it was nothing more than roasted and salted meat. Lu Bo was homesick. Not to mention how much money they had at home, they could eat very good meals. Even if they went out and found a place to eat some snacks, it would be better than their current life. You cannibals usually look very confident, but what's there to be confident about? Look at the broken things you eat. In the next life, even if you bribe the king of hell, you won't be there. Just as they were eating, a gunshot came from the left side of the forest. They were so scared that they immediately lay down on the ground. They had already found that this method was not bad. After a while, there was no additional movement. Shang-Chi signaled with his eyes, and 6 cannibals stood out. They escorted more than a dozen people at the border to the place where the gunshot had just come from. The 6 cannibals stood in the middle with knives in their hands. They made more than a dozen people turn their backs to them and walk in circles, so it was very difficult for them to walk. Some people walked sideways, while others walked backwards. When they reached the place, they didn't see anyone. There were many wooden boxes on the ground. After counting, there were more than 70 boxes. As for the specific number, the person who knew how to count couldn't count. Usually, he would count to about 60, but today, he was extraordinarily long. Most of the boxes were filled with iron sheets. There were also 2 boxes that were wrapped in that kind of shape. For a moment, they couldn't compare with the things they had seen before. The 6 cannibals looked around vigilantly, and each box was carried back. The boxes were not light, and they had to be carried by the hostages. When they came back, they reported that they found a lot of things like this. Shang-Chi kept retreating, afraid that there would be things that would suddenly explode. He saw that there was a piece of paper with words written in the box. The words looked very familiar. It was the language they used. However, he sadly found that he couldn't read. Not only him, but the people who came with him couldn't read. Frowning, Shang-Chi planned to let people throw the boxes away for fear of danger. When Lu Bo saw this, He hurriedly dissuaded him and said to Shang-Chi, I know your words. You see, I speak very fluently with you. I don't have to learn the Tang language like you do. You know them. Shang-Chi couldn't describe what he felt in his heart. He waved his hand and let Lu Bo take a look. Lu Bo sighed. How important it was to know a foreign language. He was really lucky. In the past, he specially learned to do business in the future. Not only did he know the language of the cannibals, but he also knew the Tianzhu script and a few small Indian languages. He pondered again. Perhaps the protection team who threw the boxes didn't expect that the cannibals were different from them. They were now educated from a young age. They didn't even know their own language. However, this protection team was also extraordinary. The writing of the cannibals was really beautiful. As expected, the inner courtyard of the Zhang family and Wang family was not simple. General Shang-Chi, I'll read it accordingly. Lu Bo greeted Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was very sad. He didn't know his own language and needed an outsider to read it for him. The difference between countries. Then he nodded and motioned to Lu Bo, I'm warning you to eat more people. Right now, you've captured 189 people of my great Tang. If one of them dies, we'll believe that you'll kill the rest. In other words, we'll give up on dealing with you. Your 600-some people can just wait to be covered in cannon fire. I trust that you know what cannon fire is. These things are food. Some of them are for you, and the rest are for the Tang people. There will be a river in front of you for a while. You can replenish your water. Some of them are canned food, and some are self-heating food for the Tang people. There is pork in them. Don't eat it. Arrange your formation well. We will sneak attack you from time to time. Don't think that you can threaten us with the people who killed us. It's still the same as before. If one of you dies, we will fire. Pray to Allah of your sect. From the moment you participated in the conspiracy against my Jiangnan road, the heavens decided your life and death. If you have a chance to survive, let me tell you. The brand of the food is called Richito. It is a series of food. In the future, you may have the money to buy it and enjoy it. After Lu Bo finished reading, he looked nervously at Shang-Chi. His body kept trembling, giving the impression that he was afraid that the cannibals would kill them in anger. However, he and the other 24 people who heard it knew that the picture they put together yesterday was useful. Lu Bo was really moved. The seedling protection team was indeed the seedling protection team. Shang-Chi was also trembling. He was so angry that he wanted to kill people in front of the Tang army. However, he really didn't dare to. He nodded vigorously and walked forward. He pointed at the words on a can and asked, what does it say? Lu Bo glanced at it and licked his lips. He asked loudly, General Shang-Chi, these are the words of the Tang Empire. Don't you already know the Tang Empire? Don't you recognize the words? You can't recognize your own words, but you should recognize ours, right? Shang-Chi's face darkened. I'll let you read it. Okay, I'll read it. Yes, ask about the beauty of mountains and rivers, explore the rainbows of thousands of rivers. The clouds in a foreign land can be low, but the feelings of old friends are high. Affirming that the pine stands tall, and seeing through the gale is the wormwood. A man who hides his head is not a good man, but does not stand upright like a knife. General Shang-Chi, you really don't recognize this word. It's written very well. Did you hear what I read just now? In fact, the first part describes the scenery, then the second part describes the meaning, and the last part expresses one's aspirations. This is a rhyme poem, starting with the rhyme and ending with the rhyme. Lu Bo's voice was louder this time. Shang-Chi frowned and pondered for a moment. He waved to the other 24 people who followed Lu Bo and called them over. He first looked at the cans and found that the words were the same. He gave one to each person and ordered the 3 people on his side to separate the 24 people far away from each other so that they could read it. Shang-Chi had a feeling that things weren't that simple. There might be something else written on the cans, but he believed that the other 24 people wouldn't be able to remember it after Lu Bo read it once. Therefore, he asked them separately. He stared at Lu Bo and observed Lu Bo's expression. Lu Bo wasn't worried at all. The words on the cans were the same, but it depended on how one looked at it. The words were written in circles on the outside of the cans. He believed that even if the many cannibals knew the words, they wouldn't be able to understand the meaning behind it. The content was as he had said. The first part described the scenery, followed by the thoughts, and finally expressed one's aspirations. Speaking of which, this poem was very ordinary. The words used were simple and there were no references. However, this was an acrostic poem. He was afraid that he wouldn't know, so he specifically wrote acrostic and horizontal words to remind him. When the words in front of each sentence were put together, it was a test to see if he could read. Lu Bo couldn't use words to describe his feelings. At this moment, he didn't care about life and death. He was proud of his country. This was the special forces that had been mobilized for him and the others. This was the foundation of the special forces, the seedling protection team. It seemed like there was nothing that they couldn't do. They were a highly intelligent team that had 24 hours, all-terrain, and all-terrain. If he really died, it was because of his bad luck, and not because his country didn't work hard enough. After a full 30 minutes, when Lu Bo was sleepy, he looked at the 24 people reciting the poem and came back. He recited it to Shang-Chi. Only then did Shang-Chi feel relieved. It was a poem that he had heard before. The Zhang family and Wang family of Sanshui County of the Great Tang had made canned food for the inner courtyard. Every canned food had words on it. When the inner courtyard went out to do work, seeing the words on the canned food would strengthen their beliefs. Thinking about it, this was also the case. Just as he felt relieved, Shang-Chi suddenly became worried again. He asked Lu Bo, what's different about that? Lu Bo knew what he was asking about. He smiled flatteringly and replied respectfully, canned food is canned food. It has to be slowly boiled and roasted with water and fire. It can't be too hot, or it will explode. There's probably no pork in it. The food left for us to eat has pork in it. This is more convenient to heat it up. Pour water into that little tube. Once the food comes into contact with the water, it will heat up the food. As Lu Bo spoke, he swallowed twice. He ate a little fried noodles in the morning. At noon, there was not enough fried rice for 6 people. Moreover, it was Highland barley rice. When he was at home, this was what he fed the animals, and other ingredients had to be added. Now, he could finally eat the food that was specially made for the special forces. It was said that the taste was not as good as freshly made food. However, no matter how bad it was specially made by the Zhang family and Wang family. After heating it up, it could be used as a secondary cooking pot. It was 100 times better than stir-fried Highland barley rice. Shang-Chi was angry. He had to bring pork. If the canned food was edible by himself, he would have to give them canned food. If not, they would starve to death. What if the Tang army really opened fire? Let me see. You cook. You can eat what you can. Shang-Chi had no choice but to let Lu Bo do it. The words had already said that there was a river in front. If there was a river, there would be water. Come, all of you. Learn from me. Lu Bo took the water bag and demonstrated first. He poured the water into the small hole. The 24 people who came with him watched first. After a while, that thing was filled with water. Lu Bo touched it with his hand and said, "It's hot. It will be even hotter later. You all go and teach the others. Let's eat together. We will be hungrier after eating just now." After the 24 people saw it, they immediately pulled the people at the junction to do it. Not only was it fun, but they could also wait to eat hot food. Shang-Chi looked at them swallowing their saliva and asked Lu Bo, "What is this?" "It's the military rations used by the Tang army. The canned food is actually the same. It can't be helped. It's too far away. It can't be compared to eating at home. Just make do. It's not easy to be a soldier and follow orders," Lu Bo explained. His tone was filled with endless sighs. Chapter 1277. It didn't take long for the marching rations of 189 people to heat up. The place next to the rations for boiling soup also bulged. The thing inside swelled after drinking water. Licking his lips, Lu Bo asked Shang-Chi, "Do you want to open it? There's pork inside." "Open it, it's not like I haven't seen a pig before." "I don't want to eat it." Shang-Chi insisted on seeing what it was. Before Lu Bo opened it, someone opened it first and cheered happily, "Mine is braised pork and green beans." "I know it. It's rice from the northern part of Hebei province. There are also a few pickles. Let me see, spicy radish strips and platycodon." Obviously, the person who opened it was a member of Lu Bo's group. How could the people at the border know what was inside? "Mine is too. One is twice-cooked pork and the other is pickled eggplant strips. Unfortunately, mine doesn't have pickles." Another person shouted happily. "Let me see mine. Let me see mine. It's here. Look, ha, 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 it's my favorite fried pork with garlic. The pickles are pickled cucumbers. It smells like my hometown." The third person was also very happy. "Mine is gong bao ji ding, mine is soft fried pork tenderloin with dipping sauce, mine is scrambled eggs with chives." "I don't like chives. Who can change with me?" "Mine is pickled eggplant mixed with garlic. Does anyone like garlic?" "Mine is white meat with winter melon." "I gave you garlic, mine is grilled mutton." "Oh, it's not pork." "What are you doing?" "It's pork. Do you dare to hit me? I'll die for you. Here, give me another one." Another person found that his dish was actually mutton and regretted shouting it out. As a result, many people were not stupid. They immediately grabbed it and made a gesture of wanting to hit him. He was not afraid. He straightened his neck and threatened to ask for another one. Anyway, as long as there was one, he didn't have to eat mutton. Lu Bo looked at Shang-Chi and opened his own. After taking a closer look, he helplessly handed it to Shang-Chi and said, "Mine is scallion beef tendons. It's cooked beef tendons stir-fried with scallions and coriander. The side dish is ginger fish shredded with shredded ginger and salty sea fish. Let me smell the soup. Seaweed soup. Here, you can eat it. There's no pig in it." Shang-Chi listened, and when Lu Bo passed it to him, he took it without any backbone. He wanted to cry. Was this the rations of the great Tang? The other side came from afar to fight and ate this. On the other hand, they ate stir-fried noodles, which were made by the people at the border. Otherwise, they would always eat stir-fried rice, which was called Highland barley rice in the Great Tang. It was used to feed the animals, and with some salted and dried meat, it was a marching ration. She had never heard of the same dish before. Did she really think that she didn't know what she was doing? This was called a combination of meat and vegetables. The pickles were determined based on one's personal taste. It wasn't a must to eat them. If one didn't want to eat them, they could leave them alone or exchange with others. Also, take some pork. It smelled good. Why didn't the doctrine allow them to eat it? The war was so cowardly. Lu Bo suddenly felt a sense of sympathy. He thought, it's so bitter to eat so many people. You should be occupied by us earlier. We'll let you live a good life. Look at what you soldiers eat. Don't you feel sad? After thinking about it, Lu Bo began to choose the marching ration again. In fact, there were words on the packaging. His people shouted them out to provoke the people who ate many people. Just like the person who said that he didn't like to eat chives. Others might not know you, but how could I not know you? When I went to your house, I saw that your dumplings were full. 4 out of 5 times, they were vegetarian and 3 delicacies. If you don't like to eat them, why did you make them? Did you think that my dumplings didn't have other fillings? I'll exchange with you later. Let's see if you want to exchange. Lu Bo's mood suddenly became cheerful, even though he knew that he was still a hostage. He chose from the box and shouted to Sang-Chi, General Sang-Chi, look, this is something you can eat. Do you want to eat it? Sang-Chi was about to nod when his expression suddenly changed. He laughed and said, there's no hurry. You eat it first. As he spoke, he handed back the marching ration that he had just received. Lu Bo understood. He was afraid that it was poisoned. He took it and ate it. He was not afraid. He knew that the seedling protection team would not make such a stupid plan. They were all elites and could not lack schemers. Since that was the case, if it were him, he would not believe what he ate either. How could he add something to it the first time? That would kill his own people. After happily eating a few mouthfuls, Lu Bo praised loudly, the marching ration of the Zhang family and Wang family is really delicious. Yes, it's delicious. It's better than the food I've eaten in the restaurant before. You can reheat it when it's cold. Another person echoed loudly. I guess he's a chef from between the clouds and the water. Ordinary people can't do that. Another person shouted. Wait. Sang-Chi grabbed Lu Bo's arm and asked, what's the Zhang family and Wang family? It's the Tang Empire army around us. General Sang-Chi, don't you know? I saw it very clearly. There are members of the number 0 seedling protection team and number 1 seedling protection team of the Zhang family and the number 1 seedling protection team. They formed a team and are beside us, waiting for an opportunity. Lu Bo said to Sang-Chi in a daze. Sang-Chi was also stunned. Of course, he knew about the Zhang family and Wang family of Sanshui County of the Tang Empire. Some people said that the Tang Empire would be completely destroyed if they killed people from the two families. As long as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang, one of the two families, were alive, it would be useless no matter how much land they conquered. As long as they came out personally, the world of the Tang Empire would be peaceful. Now it's their people. At this moment, Sang-Chi did not even have the mood to pray to Allah. He only felt cold all over. He knew too well what the seedling protection team was. It sounded like farming, but in fact, it had nothing to do with farming. That was the seedling protection team. In the past few years, how many people on his side had died in the hands of the seedling protection team? Those with higher positions than him, those with higher positions, were targeted by the seedling protection team and died just like that. Allah seemed to have lost all effect in front of the seedling protection team. Why is it them? Sang-Chi reached out and grabbed Lu Bo, who was still chewing, and asked hatefully. Lu Bo was very happy. He thought to himself, you also know fear. Weren't you very supportive of Niu Qi before? You said that once I'm in your hands, I'll die if you want me to die. If you want me to live, I'll live. Why are you trembling now? Motherfucker, just wait for your death. You think that you did it without anyone noticing, but do you know that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo have arrived in Idyll? You're very contradictory. You think that if you catch me, I alone am not important to the Tang Empire, but you also want to use me to threaten the Tang Empire. But Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are not contradictory. As long as you catch me, they'll definitely send people to rescue me when they get the news, even if it's thousands of li away. You can just wait for your death. If I live, you might live as a slave. If I die, you won't be able to die a quick death even if you want to. Lu Bo was just about to laugh to express his feelings when he suddenly remembered that there were still people working hard for him. He had to cooperate and ensure that all the hostages were safe. He couldn't be impulsive. He definitely couldn't. Otherwise, he would be letting down Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Thus, Lu Bo put on a flattering smile and said to Shang-Chi in a gentle voice, "General Shang-Chi, there's no need to care about them. They're actually not as powerful as the legends say. Look, we're with you right now, but they're still watching from the side." "But I'm really scared," Shang-Chi unconsciously said. "It's okay, it's really okay. They just don't want us to die. As long as none of us lose our lives or suffer heavy injuries, they won't do anything unless someone suddenly dies." Lu Bo took this opportunity to comfort Shang-Chi. In fact, his words were very sinister. He was hinting to Shang-Chi that even if one of them fell sick and died, it would be over for Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi, who led hundreds of people, didn't have as much power as a battalion commander in Tang. He didn't have any strategic ideas at all. As for tactics, he was even worse. He felt that he was very lonely. Allah didn't protect him. Just like in the era of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, those who believed in Allah, other than a portion of China, were bullied like dogs by the United States. At that time, those who believed in Allah had the protection of the China government, but they weren't satisfied and always wanted more benefits. And those who weren't protected by the China government weren't protected by the Russians either. They were their own people. Therefore, those who believed in Allah said that they didn't eat pork, but in fact, they lived worse than dogs. Dogs knew how to bark when they saw strangers, but those who believed in Allah just wagged their tails and stuck out their tongues. Now, Shang-Chi had the same feeling. He felt that the God he believed in could no longer protect him. In fact, he wasn't wrong. Just like the Arab countries during that time, they were trampled under the feet of the infidels, but still had to work hard to raise their heads and give a sincere and shameless smile. Those who were not convinced and wanted to have their own dignity were all killed by the United States. The only difference was that China had always been tolerant of their beliefs and religious habits. However, those who left behind a little religious tradition with great difficulty and lived like dog shit didn't know how to be grateful. Instead, they thought that the people of China were weak and easy to bully. Therefore, if they couldn't be pitied, they should be abandoned like dog shit. If not, it would be difficult to walk the right path. If not, how could they be called moral? If they should be killed, they should be killed. If they should be beheaded, they should be beheaded. What kind of dog is it? Fighting for its master, it's hard to tame a wolf after a long time. It's better to spit than to kill. Chapter 1278. The military rations were delicious. Shang-Chi admitted to this point. He kept all the beef and mutton, and gave the pork and chicken to Lu Bo and the others. He didn't want the vegetarian dishes. Although they were vegetarian, there was actually some meat in them. The more the cannibals ate, the more upset they felt. The enemy's weapons were good because they didn't have the technology. They could only accept that they were at a disadvantage. But why was the logistics better than the enemy's? The war was truly a cowardly one. Lu Bo and the others ate happily. The military rations sounded like they were for the soldiers, but due to the distance, it wasn't easy to preserve, so it should be hard to swallow. Today, they truly felt the strength of their country. It turned out that the military rations could be made even more delicious than those in ordinary restaurants. Lu Bo slowly chewed a small piece of pickled cucumber in his mouth. It looked like an ordinary pickled cucumber, but it was marinated in shrimp oil, so it tasted fresh and delicious. He glanced at the 24 subordinates who came with him and saw that they were all eating slowly. They hadn't eaten anything decent for many days, so the food now had the taste of their homeland. The people at the border didn't get much. 3 people ate 2 portions, and the portion that they didn't get was taken by the cannibals. The 164 people once again considered themselves as Tang people, and no longer felt that they were independent existences. The 164 people whispered to each other, their intentions more or less the same. If they could return alive, they would plant a flag of the Great Tang on their houses to indicate where they belonged. Like many Tang people, when they had nothing to do, they would plant the flag of the Great Tang on their windows and eaves, and some of them would even draw on their walls. The military rations sent over weren't much. Even if they ate slowly, they were finished after half an hour. The cannibals weren't full, and each of them only tasted a mouthful. Thus, they turned their gazes back to the cans. Shang-Chi sucked his fingers. Just now, when he ate, there were chopsticks. He didn't know how to use them, and the people at the border also didn't know how to use them, but they still learned how to use them. After all, they were Tang people. Even if they didn't learn now, they had to learn if they survived. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing. You, come here. Shang-Chi shouted to Lu Bo. Lu Bo drank the last mouthful of soup, burped, and rubbed his stomach as he walked over. The food was enough for the soldiers, and he hadn't eaten properly for many days, so he ate until he was full. Open the can. Shang-Chi looked at the satisfied expression on Lu Bo's face. He wanted to kill the other party, but at the same time, he thought that if he was also from the Great Tang. Lu Bo burped again and picked up a can to study it. The acrostic poem was still vivid in his mind. He needed to think about how to open it. Many cans in the country did not have a long shelf life. They were made of bamboo, and the cost was low. Now they were made of iron. He had to read the instructions. Otherwise, it would be troublesome to destroy it directly. The tab. Lu Bo mumbled and stuck a finger into the tab. Thinking that something was wrong, he took it out and pressed the tab in one direction, making a small hole in the can. Then, he hooked the tab again and pulled it in the other direction. A piece of iron fell off, revealing the contents of the can. What is this? Lu Bo was stunned. He had never seen this kind of food before. Fried rice. Covered rice. Why does it smell like there are so many spices? This was not the level of the chef between the clouds and the water, right? Scallions, ginger, and garlic actually accounted for a large proportion of the ingredients. Using seasonings as supplementary ingredients? 3 of the 24 people who came with him came up and looked at the food in the can. They were also confused. One of them could not help but say, "It can't be. What are the chefs of the Zhang family and Wang family planning to do? Was it a revolt? Can this be eaten? Let me open another one. Maybe it was not packed properly when it was packed." Lu Bo took another can and opened it in the same way as before. The inside was still the same as before. Passing the can in front of Shang-Chi, Lu Bo said embarrassedly, "This may be a newly developed food. It is not mature yet. I believe that it will be adjusted after some time. It will be fine to eat it then. The chefs of the Zhang family and Wang family are probably very busy and careless." Yes. Normally, they should not have made it like this, really. The person who spoke just now promised. It seemed that the chefs of the Zhang family and Wang family had made the food like this, and they were also embarrassed. Shang-Chi put the can in front of his nose and smelled it. He nodded. It tastes good. It is better than what we ate before we came. Call someone over and let's eat. He called someone over from the border. He was afraid that it was poisonous. If someone was poisoned to death, it would have nothing to do with him. He thought that the Miao protection team would not be covered by artillery. As hostages, Lu Bo and the other 25 people suddenly felt a sense of superiority. Pig food was actually praised. It was really sad to live a polyphagous life. No wonder many polyphagous people were willing to come to the Tang Empire in the past. They enjoyed a different life. The 25 people thought so, but no one took the initiative to try it. What if it was really poisonous? 5 people from the border were called over. They opened 3 more cans, 1 for each person, and let them eat. The 5 people held the cans and looked at them. Seeing that the polyphagous people wanted to come over, one of them immediately said, "Give me the chopsticks just now. I will eat. Use your hands." Shang-Chi was not used to this. If he used his hands to grab, why couldn't they grab? Why did they have to use chopsticks? It was infuriating. The 5 of them obeyed and reached out to grab the contents of the can. They pinched a little with 3 fingers and carefully put it into their mouths. They chewed twice, blinked their eyes, smacked their lips, and immediately reached out to grab the can again. They ate quickly. They ate about 20 mouthfuls in a row. They looked at each other and were relieved to see that they were all alive. Wait a minute. You, what do you think? Shang-Chi stopped them and asked one of them. The person who was asked nodded vigorously. It's delicious. It would be better if there was less ginger. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Lu Bo also asked. The 5 people shook their heads. Lu Bo pondered and opened another can. He reached out to grab it, but one of the people who came with him snatched it. "Boss, I will go first." After saying that, he began to eat. After 2 mouthfuls, a smile appeared on his face. I knew it. The food made by the Zhang family and Wang family's chefs can't be bad. I don't feel that there is too much ginger and too much pepper. It's not like I'm drinking mutton soup. Shang-Chi was tempted. He hesitated but still insisted on not eating. He let the 5 people finish the food in the can. Everyone surrounded the 5 people to see their reactions. I still want to eat. One of the 5 people said eagerly. Lu Bo stopped him. Don't be in a hurry. You have been hungry for too long. If you suddenly eat too much, it will cause problems. Do you want to drink water? Drink. The 5 people really wanted to eat. Their stomachs were always hungry. Someone brought a water bag and each person drank a few mouthfuls. They sat on the ground and waited to see if they were still alive. The shadows of the 5 people gradually grew longer. Nothing happened to the 5 people. Instead, they digested the food and were no longer hungry. They sat there with a happy smile on their faces, enjoying the feeling of being full under the sun. Eat. Half of the people eat first. Shang-Chi saw that the person who tasted the food was still alive and well. He waved his hand and ordered. The many people were anxious. Immediately, half of them stood out and opened the can like how Lu Bo did before. They reached out and stuffed the food into their mouths. There was no smell of pork in the mixed food. They could taste that it was made of mutton oil and some mutton. With all kinds of seasonings, they ate until their stomachs felt warm. After each of them ate 2 cans in a row, the others continued to wait under Shang-Chi's order. The clouds in the sky floated and flew away. Another hour passed. The many people who ate the can were still alive. The 5 people who tasted the can were also fine. Lu Bo thought for a while and said to Shang-Chi, General Shang-Chi, eat. The protection team won't poison you. They know that you will let us try first. If they poison us, they will poison us. They are here to rescue you, not to harm you. It's just that you have to be careful in the process of meeting up with the main force on your side. They will keep shooting from the back. Shang-Chi was happy when he heard the first part, but when he heard the second part, his face turned gloomy. According to the Tang people, it was impossible to stop halfway. They didn't dare to kill to test the water. When they were rushing, the other party would shoot and they would have to walk for a few days. What should he do? Should he discuss with the other party and let them go so that they wouldn't attack? No, if it were him, he would immediately chase after them. Should he tell them that he would kill one of them? It would be useless. They dared to shoot yesterday. Eat. Shang-Chi, who couldn't think of a good idea, gritted his teeth and took a can to eat. The other half of the people who didn't eat just now also opened the can as fast as they could. When it was in his mouth, Shang-Chi knew why the people who ate just now had that kind of expression. It was so delicious. Although it was cold, the food inside didn't make people feel disgusted. When it entered the stomach, there was a warm feeling, as if the whole body was full of strength. When they were full, there were only 21 cans left in the woods. Shang-Chi naturally kept the rest of the cans for himself. After a short rest, he let the hostages stand up and tie them firmly. 2 people with knives were behind each of them. They surrounded their own people and continued to move forward. After walking for a while, they saw a small river. The water was clear, and they could see the stones and small fish swimming below. The crowd cheered. There was water. Lu Bo squatted down and dipped his hands in the water. He washed his face first before drinking a mouthful. He requested Shang-Chi, "Let us take a bath and change our clothes." The 24 people who came with him looked at Shang-Chi. They were here to do business, so they naturally had to bring things. Everyone brought an extra set of clothes and toiletries. They were confiscated before, but Lu Bo went to curry favor with the great Tang trader and was rewarded back. They hadn't been used since. The main reason was that many people were not used to wearing clothes and using other toiletries was also unfamiliar. Shang-Chi nodded and asked, "There's no poison in the water. How much poison is in the flowing water?" "Don't worry." Lu Bo revealed a flattering smile and shamelessly tried to curry favor with the great Tang. He did this to survive and create opportunities for the seedling protection team. However, Wang Miao, who was watching from afar, pursed his lips tightly. He had already received news from the country and understood Lu Bo's family situation. He was a pretty good businessman. He had 2 wives and 7 children. His parents were still alive, and he was still supporting the parents of 2 of his wives. The grandfather of one of his wives was still alive, and he was as respectful as he was to his own grandfather. His family had large courtyards in the capital, Hangzhou, Suzhou, Idyll, and Luoyang. He was smart since young, and he took over the family business at the age of 16. He got along well with the local officials. He had no criminal record and never gave money to the local schools. However, he opened a small book printing company that specialized in printing books for children and gave them out free of charge. 5 years ago, he found that this business route was more profitable, so he brought people here to do business. His family mainly dealt in leather, and later on, they added medicinal herbs and sold them to the clinic. He could be considered a pretty wealthy businessman and lived a good life. His family was harmonious, and he was kind to others. He didn't take loans from banks, and his family had a lot of cash. However, he was willing to give the clinic credit for medicinal herbs. He was also talented. He was proficient in 6 foreign languages and had good calligraphy skills. He also liked painting and often invited scholars to hold poetry gatherings. He was very good to his employees and had a relatively high charisma. Usually, he was neither servile nor overbearing when he met the officials, but now, he was like a dog trying to please its owner. Wang Miao felt very uncomfortable. He felt that he didn't do a good job. Every smile of Lu Bo's was like a knife stabbing into his chest. He picked up the sniper rifle beside him and shot down the other party's leader, but he didn't dare to do so. After threatening the other party, he actually felt a little guilty. Fortunately, he found that the other party was illiterate. Not only did they not recognize the great Tang's words, but they also didn't recognize their own words. The school was very important and could play a life-saving role at a critical moment. Wang Miao looked and estimated the time it would take for the people here to meet up with the main forces. He also estimated the time when he would release the spiked cans. He decided not to shoot at the other party during this process. At most, he would shoot at the sky to slow down the troops. If he killed one of the other party and the other party retaliated by killing one of his own people, should he open fire or not? Putting away his binoculars, Wang Miao gritted his teeth and said, "If only I knew what the other party's leader was thinking. Just wait, just wait. You'll all cry." The speed of the many people was just as Wang Miao had expected. They slowed down and placed a portion of the hostages outside, constantly changing their positions. The other people hid behind the hostages and mixed in with the rest of the hostages so that the great Tang army wouldn't shoot at the rat for fear of breaking the vases. As night fell, the many people were exhausted. None of them were killed during the day, but the psychological pressure was even greater. They knew that there were countless eyes watching them and looking for an opportunity to kill them. They were nervous when they were walking during the day, and they didn't dare to relax at night. The torches and bonfires burned, making crackling sounds from time to time. Every time there was a crackling sound, it made people worried that it was the sound of gunshots. When it was time for dinner, the many people began to miss the days in the day. They ate canned food in the day, and now they had to eat the stir-fried barley at night. It was really hard to swallow. Without so many seasonings and delicious salted vegetables, they could only force themselves to swallow. Tonight, the hostages didn't have any food. The many people felt that they had eaten a lot at noon and could starve a little. Lu Bo's 25 people were gathered together and had relatively more freedom. The many people standing outside the tent were their own world. Drink some water. We'll probably have something to eat tomorrow morning. Lu Bo was also hungry. He rubbed his stomach and said to his subordinates. He picked up the water bag and gulped down a few mouthfuls to make his stomach feel less empty. Why didn't they send us anything to eat at night? A person hugged the water bag and mumbled when he didn't feel like drinking. I'm not sure. Lu Bo shook his head. He wasn't complaining, but he was puzzled. Logically speaking, since the protection team had found them, they should have sent them something to eat. Now that the many people had finished eating, they were still hungry. Midnight came quietly when everyone was hungry and nervous. The sound of a gunshot broke the silence of the night. The duo eater on night watch was shocked and looked around to see who had been killed. The fire was still burning and the dark clouds were rolling in the sky. The moon and stars could not be seen, making people feel oppressed. Shang-Chi, who was sleeping in his clothes, walked out of the tent under the protection of a few people. He asked loudly, "Who died?" After a while, someone came to report, no one died." "Should we go and get something? Where did the gunshot come from?" Shang-Chi listened and his stomach felt empty again. "Over there." Someone pointed in a direction. There was a mountain and the gunshot was echoing, making it difficult to distinguish. "Take the hostages and take a look," Shang-Chi ordered. Someone came and called the hostages to the place where the gunshot came from. The hostages woke up. They were awakened by the gunshot. It didn't take long for the people who went to check to return. As expected, they were carrying something. It was still a wooden box. Inside it was some military food and some canned food. There were exactly 189 canned food. It seemed like they had prepared one for each of the hostages. However, there were only 200 canned food. It definitely wasn't enough for the many people. Shang-Chi didn't need to look to know that the food was filled with pork. It was specially prepared for the hostages. The 200 canned food was for his side. Wake them up and let them eat. If they don't let me sleep well, I won't let them sleep well either, Shang-Chi ordered. Lu Bo and the others were woken up. They came out of the tent in a daze and saw the food under the light of the torch. They were all very happy. There was food to eat, but the timing was too good. Why did it only arrive in the middle of the night? General Shang-Chi, thank you, thank you. Can I eat? Lu Bo ran to Shang-Chi and bowed repeatedly. Eat, eat and sleep well. We have to hurry tomorrow. Shang-Chi didn't want them to eat, but he was worried that it would affect their stamina. He could only agree gloomily. He also picked up a can and was about to eat when he suddenly stopped and passed it to Lu Bo. I'll add a can for you. You eat first. Yes, yes. Lu Bo took it and started to eat. He knew that the many people wanted him to test the poison. They were really cautious. While eating, he looked at the words on the can. It was written in a different style. It said, delivering food in the middle of the night. Because of the long journey, it is difficult to transport. Peacefully wait for the clouds to disperse. Like the sun, like before. After seeing the words, Lu Bo's legs trembled. He knew that the time to act was 3 days later. The limerick on the can wasn't written clearly, but he knew. Because he remembered that before he came here, he held a poetry party. Someone wrote a poem and everyone commented. When it was his turn, he said, like the sun, like the moon rising. Looking at the words and reading the shape, it was a good poem. Then, today's limerick said that food was delivered in the middle of the night, followed by, like the sun, like before. It was telling him the time to act. Lu Bo ate and sighed in his heart. It was too amazing. In just one day, they found out everything and used it to send a message on the can. How much resources did Xiao Bao and Cuckoo mobilize? Otherwise, it would be impossible to find out so clearly. 3 days, there were still 3 days. He had to hold on. If he didn't put Shang-Chi in a cage by then, his name would be written upside down. No, it would be written horizontally. Shang-Chi watched Lu Bo eat and continued to wait. He wanted to find a few more people to test the poison, but he didn't want to. If there was no poison, his people would eat less. Chapter 1279. When he returned to the tent, Lu Bo was still in a state of excitement. He said to his 24 subordinates, eat, eat and rest well. Do your best for General Shang-Chi. His subordinates knew what he meant. Why would they do anything for Shang-Chi? One of them wrote on the ground, are you going to do it? Don't ask. Don't affect your mood and be detected. Lu Bo also wrote. The 24 nodded and began to fill the ration with water. Lu Bo had not filled his own ration yet. He had just eaten canned food. Today's canned food tasted a little bitter, but it did not make him feel uncomfortable. The only thing he felt was that he was a little confused, probably because he was too nervous, and also because he had woken up in the middle of the night. Lu Bo secretly swore that when he returned to China, he would do his job well. He would listen to the imperial court and Xiao Bao and be a proper businessman. He would not cheat or harm others. It was not only because of his attachment to his motherland, but also because he had to remember what happened today. Since they could find out his identity and communicate with him to save him in a day, if he made a mistake, they could also find out and deal with him in a day. It was no wonder that the top businessmen in the list were so reliable. After the war, they worked together to stabilize the domestic product prices. It was probably because they knew more about Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. It was too scary. Efficiency, this was efficiency. When Xiao Bao and Cuckoo became serious and started to mobilize resources, the result would be the same as now. It smells like medicine. One of the people eating the ration was really hungry. As soon as the ration was heated, he could not wait to open it. The strong smell of medicine wafted into the tent. When the others heard his voice, they turned to look and sniffed. Sure enough, there was medicine. There was really medicine. Let me see. Jujube, wolfberry, angelica, rehmannia, and some slices are ginseng. The meat dish is braised pork ribs, and the vegetarian dish is braised shrimps with chives. There are no salted vegetables today. Another person recognized many herbs and immediately read them out loud. Mine is the same. Mine too. Looks like today's meal is the same. That's right. The others opened their own rations and found that the dishes were not as messy as last time. They were all the same things. Lu Bo took a look and nodded. Start giving us nourishment and let us nourish our bodies. What is soup? Let me take a sip and see. It's delicious. It's not soup, it's porridge. Rock sugar, hay, and mung bean porridge. I know. They're afraid that we'll get heatstroke, but they're also worried that we'll be too nourishing after eating this dish. They've put in a lot of effort to adjust us with mild porridge. The person who spoke at the beginning sighed. Shang-Chi stood outside the tent. The other hostages did not have tents. Only Lu Bo and 25 people were squeezed into one tent. The other hostages rested in the open with ropes tied to their bodies. When he heard the words of the real Tang in the tent, his lips twitched, but then he helplessly shook his head. He lowered his head and looked at the can in his hand. He sighed, opened it, and ate it with his hands. The people following him also heard the voices in the tent. Although some of them understood the great Tang language and couldn't speak it properly, they could still understand it. All of them swallowed their saliva. They really wanted to eat it. What kind of pork couldn't they eat? It didn't smell any worse than beef and mutton. Moreover, they felt that the pork was even more delicious when it was made by someone else. He didn't understand why the church's teachings forbade him from eating pigs. If he secretly ate some, eat the can. Don't think too much. Shang-Chi was the first to be tempted. He was also thinking about how he could secretly eat the pork. Seeing the expressions of his subordinates, how could he not know what they were thinking? He softly warned them. It's a little bitter. A guard ate 2 mouthfuls of the food in the can and smacked his lips as he spoke. Eat it. It won't kill you. You smell their military rations. It's also bitter. They probably put the leftover seasoning in the military rations into the can. Shang-Chi also felt that today's can was bitter. However, when he smelled the smell drifting over, he found that it was not much different from the bitter taste. He believed that the great Tang people had used leftover seasoning in the cans for them. Fortunately, there was no smell of pork. However, there was one point that was acceptable. The few guards who were eating the can nodded. It was fine if it was bitter. It didn't affect the taste. It was still delicious. Lu Bo could hear their conversation. He felt that things weren't so simple. As for the leftover seasoning in the can, what a joke. What kind of leftover seasoning was bitter? The bitterness of the braised pork ribs was because of the sugar color and the ginseng. Why would they put ginseng in the can? Although ginseng was a man-made product of the Zhang family and Wang family, it could also be used to treat diseases. If it wasn't used to save lives, it would be the same as the wild ginseng. At most, it would be used to increase the quantity of the medicine. Why would such a good thing be used as leftover seasoning? You guys think too highly of yourselves. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo can't wait to deal with you guys personally. Why would they use ginseng and specially fry it with sugar color? Did they really think that the sugar color was just a simple color? Wouldn't it be better to use soy sauce? The caramel itself was a medicine. There's a problem. There's a problem with the food today. What's wrong? Lu Bo was more and more certain of his guess. Normally, the handheld canned food couldn't be bitter. Since they said that they would take action 3 days later, the pork ribs that were delivered today also tasted a little bitter. It was just enough to make people feel that today's food was normal. Coincidence? Coincidence? If it was someone else, it might be. However, it was definitely impossible for the Zhang family and Wang family. There must be some scheme. Lu Bo couldn't figure out what was going on at the moment, but he had a plan in his mind. Shang-Chi was very satisfied with the food. He was the leader of hundreds of people. Where did he learn so many schemes and tricks? He also thought that it was normal. Anyway, it was fine as long as he didn't have to eat the military rations that he brought. What if no one sent him canned food in the future? He didn't think too much about it. He was leading a group of people to fight alone. The other party was using the entire system to deal with him. They were playing a team game with him. After eating one canned food, he was still hungry. He asked someone to bring him another one. He opened it and ate again. It was better to pour water on the military rations to heat them up. The canned food was cold. Roast it. No, can I roast the food inside and cook it? That's too troublesome. How can there be so many pots? Just eat, make do with it. Shang-Chi looked enviously at the other hostages who were eating the military rations in the open air. He muttered and ate again. A total of 200 canned food was delivered. Lu Bo ate one, Shang-Chi ate one more, and the others ate one less. As they ate, Shang-Chi got angry and shouted in the night, "Tomorrow, I want you to send us 1,200 canned food tomorrow. We have to make sure that each person gets 2. The others followed suit. They had more than 500 people and less than 600 people. If they sent 2 canned food for each person, it would be exactly 1,200. That was what they thought. They couldn't help it. They couldn't even read their own language. It was too difficult for them to calculate more than 1,000. Normally, there were less than 600 people. With 1,200 canned food, each person would get 2. Who would get the rest? Shang-Chi could calculate. He wanted to digest the food in his stomach. He would eat one and give the rest to those who performed well as a reward. The next day, when the sun had risen for some distance, gunshots came from the forest. Shang-Chi immediately ordered people to take the hostages to take a look. As expected, food was delivered again, and the amount of canned food had obviously increased. Come here and see how many there are. Shang-Chi counted with difficulty and found Lu Bo. Lu Bo counted 50 cans in a box. He counted 24 cans in another box. He said to Shang-Chi, 1,200. How did you count so fast? Shang-Chi was puzzled. General, you're here. If I had divine help, it would really be 1,200. Unless the amount of cans in each box is different. Lu Bo endured the disgust in his heart and flattered himself. He comforted himself and held on for 2 more days. It was still Lu Bo's turn to taste the food. He felt that he was really smart. He didn't eat the military ration yesterday. Otherwise, he would be full until he went to bed at night. Those who ate the military ration would not be able to digest it completely. Bitter. Lu Bo felt that the canned food was really bitter. It seemed to be even more bitter than yesterday. At the same time, it added a little sweetness and spiciness. There was actually chili. This way, the bitterness would not be felt unless one paid special attention. There was indeed a problem. Lu Bo finished eating and stood there to stretch his body. After waiting for a quarter of an hour, he was fine. Shang-Chi waved his hand and his subordinates came to get 2 cans each. Lu Bo was in charge of distributing them. At noon, there were still 1,200 cans. At the same time, the military ration was added. Today's meat dish was twice cooked pork, and the vegetable dish was egg fried garlic. The soup was still changed to rock sugar hay and mung bean porridge. This time, Lu Bo ate it. He realized that the amount of licorice in the porridge had increased. This was used to detoxify the poison. No wonder the canned food was bitter. What was in it? It seemed to be fine. At night, they would be given canned food. At midnight, they would be given supper. Just like that, all the poly-eaters began to wait for the time to eat. Lu Bo was also looking forward to eating the canned food. He felt that eating the canned food would be very comfortable. His body would be very relaxed, and he would not feel bitter anymore. Sometimes, he would even look at Tian after eating and feel that life was so beautiful. On the second night, when he felt that way, Lu Bo became alert. He had been in charge of tasting the canned food. Although he didn't eat as much as the poly-eaters, he didn't think that the canned food was better than the military ration. Then why was he looking forward to it so much? He was addicted. He was definitely addicted. After 2 days, he was addicted to the canned food. What was in it? It was no wonder that he didn't need to wait for a quarter of an hour to taste the canned food. The poly-eaters would immediately follow suit. Tomorrow was the 3rd day, and the amount in the canned food would probably be increased. Then, after eating for the whole day, he would have supper at midnight. Around midnight in the morning, Lu Bo deduced that the attack in 3 days was referring to the early morning of the 4th day. As for the last supper, would he be poisoned to death? Most likely not. Otherwise, why would they make a move? They could just kill him with the medicine. Then, it was most likely that they would drug him. Alright, I'll go all out. Hopefully, I won't be unconscious for too long and they will be able to wake me up in time. Lu Bo muttered to himself. He closed his eyes and began to rest. The wonderful feeling of eating the canned food filled his heart again. On the morning of the 3rd day, Lu Bo carefully tasted the canned food and found that the amount in the canned food had been increased. This meant that he would be even more addicted. When the time came, he would have to quit. It was really painful. That was a drug addiction. Fine, he would have to be strong when the time came. Everything was for Tang. The medical center would not give them a single copper coin, so they could not sell it. Since it was reported in the newspaper, they were clear about the situation their boss was in. He was addicted, and it would take a lot of effort to kick it. Therefore, when they looked at their boss, their eyes were filled with encouragement. Lu Bo glared at them and thought, I'm not going to die, so why are you so sad? The supper was more unbearable. I don't know if I'll faint. At the same time, he glanced at the tent. Because the light outside was brighter than inside the tent, when looking from a distance, the shadows of the people outside would fall on the tent. Only when they were close could they see the shadows of the people inside the tent, and it was very blurry. Lu Bo felt sad for the people who ate more food. The result of having no knowledge. If you all went to school when you were young, and if your school taught you some words and knowledge of the great Tang, how could you fall into the trap so easily? Why did I have to print books for the children in school to read? This was the power of knowledge. Shang-Chi, who was eating happily outside, did not know that the person who tested the poison was cursing them in the tent. He only felt that the canned food today was even more satisfying. After eating it, from top to bottom, from inside to outside, there was not a single place where he felt uncomfortable. Although the sky was gloomy tonight, breathing after eating the canned food was very pleasant. Listening to the voices coming from the tent from time to time, his mouth revealed a smile, and his whole body was relaxed. Shang-Chi had already made a decision. As long as he could meet up with the rest of the troops, he would definitely keep the person called Lu Bo. This person knew a lot, could speak both languages, and could read both languages. If he kept him by his side, maybe his status would be improved. When he had more power, he could give Lu Bo more benefits. Gems, women, wine, all were not a problem. The half-moon shyly hid behind the dark clouds. Occasionally, when the wind blew, a trace of light would appear in the gaps of the dark clouds, but it would quickly hide back again. The torches in the camp flickered, and the tent made a sound as it was blown by the wind. Lu Bo and the other 25 people were counting sheep while sleeping. This was also what they learned from the newspaper. When they were suffering from insomnia, they should try not to take medicine. They could use something to cover their eyes and then count sheep. They also imagined that they were on the grassland, where the sky was high, the clouds were light, and the grass was green and the flowers were red. They thought that counting would make them fall asleep quickly. Only when it did not work would they go to the clinic to get medicine to eat. Many people were not in the mood to sleep. They felt that sleeping in this kind of weather was a waste of time, so they sang and danced. All kinds of sounds mixed together and rippled in the night sky. Many of the people at the border who were taken hostage felt that the situation today was not right. The cannibals were too happy, Lu Bo and the others were too quiet in the tent, and the dark clouds in the sky made it hard for people to breathe. They occasionally looked at each other and felt that something was going to happen. They did not know why they had this idea, but everything around them looked strange. In the middle of the night, the sound of gunshots rang out. The people who did not sleep much brought the food back with the hostages. As usual, Lu Bo ate it. He had just eaten 2 mouthfuls of the canned food, and the people did not wait to see his reaction. They opened the canned food and stuffed it into their mouths. Today, Lu Bo ate very quickly. He did not chew at all and directly swallowed. Then, he stood there motionless. He was doing the opposite of what was described in the newspaper. The newspaper said that people who did not absorb and digest well had to chew carefully when eating and try to chew the food as much as possible. This way, when it entered the stomach acid could come into contact with the food better and quickly decompose it. Drinking a little soup while eating and strolling after the meal was also a good choice. However, Lu Bo did not intend to let himself absorb the canned food quickly. He decided to spit it all out when he entered the tent later. As for the people who were eating, he did not care. Just eat. It was delicious. Eat more. At the same time, Lu Bo also decided that after he went, he would specially ask people to collect all kinds of common knowledge in life and then send articles to the Tang newspaper. Or, he would also write a small daily newspaper and introduce all kinds of useful tips and knowledge to the people of Tang. No wonder there is a page dedicated to such things every time. It turns out that it can save lives at critical moments. Usually, when I read such pages in the newspaper, it was just for entertainment. But now I know how important these little wisdom are. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are really gods. Lu Bo sighed. When knowledge was not used, no one would think that it was very useful. But when it was needed, it was so convenient and useful. When the people who were eating the second can of canned food, Lu Bo returned to the tent. Under the cover of his subordinates, he quietly spat out the food in his stomach again. Then, he drank a lot of water and continued to spit it out. After several times, his subordinates passed him the porridge and asked him to drink a few mouthfuls to prevent the stomach acid and bile from burning the gastric mucosa with an empty stomach. After drinking a few mouthfuls of porridge, Lu Bo went to sleep. He was afraid that after he spat out the drugs, his body would feel uncomfortable if it was not replenished. Sleeping would relieve this feeling. He hoped that the cycle of the body's need for drugs would be longer and would not be the same as the cycle of eating. After the people who were eating supper, they were very excited at first. After about half an hour, they all looked tired. Shang-Chi immediately ordered them to rest and decided not to sing and dance after dinner tomorrow night. If they were tired, it would affect the battle. There were still enemies around. Maybe the enemies could not help but suddenly attack at any time. The people who were eating went to the tent to rest, leaving only the sentries to guard the camp and the hostages. All kinds of insects were chirping. The clouds in the sky seemed to be darker and denser. For a long time, there was no trace of moonlight. When it was time to change the sentries, the people who should have gotten up quickly were pushed many times. Only then did they wake up and drag their heavy footsteps to the sentry post. The original sentries fell asleep as soon as they entered the tent. In fact, they had fallen asleep just now. It was just that they could not sleep well standing up, so they forced themselves to stay awake until now. The new sentries stood for a while and fell asleep not long after. The people outside could not see the hidden sentries, but they could hear the snoring. The people who were tied up at the junction were all dumbfounded. They looked at the people who were usually very energetic and would occasionally come to scold them. Why did they all fall asleep today? If that was the case, who would be the sentries? For a moment, they were tempted. Since no one was on the lookout, could they, just as two people were about to move, they were immediately whispered by a relatively older person, "Don't move. Sleep honestly. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze." It was said to be squeezy because they lived outside. Even if it was raining, no one would prepare tents for them. The main thing was that there were only so many tents. It was not easy to save one for Lu Bo and the others. As for the reason, of course, it was because Lu Bo could help them calculate and come up with ideas. Once again, it proved the importance of knowledge. Even if you were a prisoner, even if you were a hostage, as long as you could prove that you were good at what you had learned, your survival environment and chances of survival would be far greater than those who were inferior to you. The people at the junction did not enjoy the treatment of tents. When it was sunny, it was fine. At most, there would be mosquito harassment. If it was raining, it would be very cold at night. They could only squeeze together. It was very difficult to go to the toilet. They had to wake others up together and tie each other up. Today, the moon was covered by dark clouds. The wind was strong, and the night was cold. Moreover, the humidity was heavy. They did not sleep well. If one person moved, the person tied up nearby would wake up. They did not know why, but it was cold and energetic tonight. It seemed that they had become excited after eating the military rations. When people were excited, they would always think about things that they should not think about. Now, some people felt that the opportunity had come. Bite the rope and we can run out. The soldiers who saved us must be around. If we meet them, we will live. The person who was shouted at was not willing to give up and said excitedly, "What about the people in the tent? You go and call them. They are surrounded by the other tents. They woke up the people who eat more. They will kill people." The elder whispered. "Ignore them. Let's run out first." The young man had a good plan. The elder sneered. "They are real people of the great Tang. We don't have a household registration yet. If we run out at the cost of exposing them, how will the soldiers of the great Tang treat us? If one of them dies, we will all die with them." The people nearby who heard the commotion nodded. Did the great Tang send elite soldiers to kill their own people? Who knew who was close and who was distant? We are also people of the great Tang. The young man muttered. Let's talk about it after we are saved. When we are registered, we will have to listen to the words of the great Tang Emperor. There is also that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. In the past 2 days, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are very powerful. The people who came back were sent by them. They are the most powerful team that the great Tang can send. Other than here, only the great Tang Emperor has them. Everyone, don't move. Wait and trust them. Even the most powerful great Tang soldiers forced the people of the great Tang to take us as hostages. How can the most powerful people be weak? The elder threatened and boosted the confidence of the people on his side. He was afraid that some of them would be impulsive and kill Lu Bo. If his own people were exposed, he would kill them too. Some people who were ready to make a move spread the news to each other, but all of them restrained themselves. They didn't want to be killed by the great Tang soldiers after running out. At night, the people of the great Tang changed shifts every 2 hours. In the past, it was 4 hours. Later on, it was 3 hours. Now, it was 1 hour. They were worried that if they stood for too long, it would give the Tang army a chance to attack them when they were tired. After eating, it would be past midnight. So, if they stood for 2 hours, it would be past midnight. Now, those who had just been replaced had to stand until midnight. In other words, it was around 3 o'clock. Midnight was 3 o'clock. If it was 4 o'clock, it was 4 o'clock. 3 o'clock was the wee hours of the morning. Even the people who sold breakfast were not willing to get up. Generally, they would wait until 4 o'clock before getting up to prepare. When they finished setting up their stalls and started making breakfast, it would be around 5 o'clock. At this time, dawn was relatively early. But because of the different locations, it would not be dawn until after 6 o'clock. If it was in the northern part of Hebei province, it would be dawn early. Of course, it would be dark later. The people at the border were waiting for the arrival of a new day. They also hoped that the great Tang soldiers would quickly rescue them. If it weren't for the great Tang soldiers coming over to replenish their food, some people would not have been able to hold on and died. Although it had only been a little more than 3 days, if not for the things that had been sent to them previously, these 3 days might have been the last time they could hold on. If they waited for a larger group to gather, at least 1/3 of them would have died. They had already used up a lot of stamina and nutrition before this. Time passed slowly in the hearts of the people at the border. They waited, and finally, it was 12 o'clock in the morning. Some people were very clear about the time. They could tell the approximate time based on their instincts. Now, they were waiting to see more people change shifts. In the end, the people of the Great Tang who should have taken the initiative to change shifts were still sleeping at their posts, and no one came out of their tents. The eyes of the people living at the border lit up. They did not know why, but they were not sleepy. They looked at the sky. When the dark clouds were rolling in, the moonlight that occasionally peeked out was already leaning towards the west. Just a little more time and the sun in the east would be the first to shine. Although the sun did not appear, the sky in the west would be able to illuminate a little. Are they all sleeping? No one is changing shifts. Then what about the special forces of the Great Tang? Stupid. Hurry up and come out. Opportunity, a good opportunity. Just as they were cursing in their hearts, countless black shadows suddenly appeared under the moonlight after the dark clouds had just dispersed. They were stunned for a moment, and in a moment of joy, a figure appeared beside the person at the sentry post closest to them. They didn't know how the figure moved, but the figure stopped and then moved. They watched as the person gently placed the duogan on the sentry post on the ground. Then, there was the sound of popping, and soon, everything returned to normal. Before they could think about it, several large patches of light suddenly shone down from the sky. They could not help but look up and see 4 large objects floating in the sky. The light was coming from those 4 objects. Then, more small beams of light shone from the figures. There was not a single gunshot, not a single shout. Only someone came to help them cut the ropes. Less than 7 minutes later, they heard someone speak. Reporting, all the enemies are under control. All the sentry posts have been killed. Requesting action. Action. Don't move. Don't move. Clap, clap. Put your hands on your head and lie on the ground. A cacophony of voices began to appear, and all the voices were of the Great Tang and even some local dialects of the Great Tang. Shouts, footsteps, and gunshots mixed together. The beams of light from the objects flying in the sky swept back and forth. Another 7 minutes later, the noise died down again. The Great Tang, who were still sleepy, were escorted out one by one and gathered in the open space of the camp with guns pointed at them. When the Great Tang saw that there were more of them, there was a slight commotion. A series of gunshots rang out. No Great Tang was killed, but everyone became obedient. They knew that the thing that was making the continuous sounds was a machine gun. The people at the border were still in a daze. They did not know how the battle had started or what was going on in the tent. In any case, all the Great Tang were under control and the sentry had been killed. The ropes binding them had been cut, but they did not say anything. They just stood there and watched. Everything they saw was full of wonder, especially in the sky. What was flying? The attack speed was too fast. They thought that there would be a fierce battle. After all, there were nearly 600 Great Tang. How could they be caught in such a short time? Area A5 is safe. Area A6 is safe. Area B1 is safe. One voice after another reported that they were safe. Gather the troops. The medical team is landing. Another voice sounded. The people on the objects flying in the sky started to slide down the ropes quickly. Every time, 2 people slid down, one holding the other. The speed of the fall was very fast. When they were about to hit the ground, they suddenly slowed down and landed on the ground. Lu Bo and the other 25 people walked out of the tent and stood in the open space outside. Someone went up and saluted. This is Wang Miao, the commander of the Vigorous Protection Team, codenamed Wu Yi. I'm here to report that you are safe. After that, the person who called himself Wang Miao shook Lu Bo's hand and said, "It's been hard on you guys recently." Lu Bo's tears flowed out. He took a deep breath and hugged Wang Miao. His voice was muffled as he said, "It's not hard, it's not hard. We didn't. You guys are the ones who suffered. We saw it all and remembered it in our hearts. If we didn't suffer this time, we wouldn't know how much Tang Dynasty cares for us. Thank you. Let's go. We'll check your body first. Especially you ate a lot of opium cream. We'll inject glucose into your vein first to clean it up. We'll observe you in the future to see how addicted you are." Wang Miao patted Lu Bo's back and smiled. Lu Bo also smiled. "I'm fine. I'm satisfied with eating some. I threw up the last supper yesterday. Otherwise, I would be like them, all tired and sleepy after being captured. Yes, we put in a large amount of sleeping pills yesterday. There were more than 50 people who were still sleeping. They didn't wake up even when they were dragged out. Lu Bo is really smart. He guessed our plan." Wang Miao put his hand on Lu Bo's shoulder and walked to the front. Immediately, the medical staff gave him an 4 drip. There was only glucose in it. The main thing was that Lu Bo had been tortured for the past 3 days and had to eat everything. There were also people who came to check his blood pressure and heartbeat. There were even people who came to disinfect his fingers and take blood for a simple blood sugar test. If there was a lack of glucose, they would need to replenish it. The first to be checked was naturally Lu Bo and the others. The people living at the border had to wait. There were only 9 medical staff in total, and all of them had a red cross on them. It was the international medical symbol. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had given it according to their habits. Actually, it didn't have to be a cross, it could also be a symbol. What's a code name for Wui? It's not as good as Lei Ting. The person who wanted to run first asked curiously. He was still awake. Lu Bo replied, Qiue Wui. I share the same robes with you. Wang Yuxing, repair my spear. I share the same hatred. Qiue Wui. I share the same lake. Wang Yuxing, repair my spear and halberd. I work with you. Qiue Wui. I share the same robes with you. Wang Yuxing, repair my armor and soldiers. I walk with you. What does that mean? This person was even more confused. When you have time, you'll know when you read the book. It's a request for battle, and also a poem that expresses our unity, Lu Bo replied naturally. Lu Dongjia is indeed knowledgeable. Just by hearing a code name, you know what we mean. Alright, Lu Dongjia, rest first. Others, come and check. After that, take a hot bath. Someone is boiling water for you. Give them some time, and they will kill you one by one. You won't be able to fight back because there are no rivers or good lakes where you live. You usually live in the mountains. It's hard to say whether you can swim, let alone fight in the water. I don't believe it. How can they beat me? If I beat one, the others will run away in fear, the young man said angrily. Lu Bo didn't say anything. He just smiled. He couldn't really fight. No matter what he said, it was reasonable. However, he knew that if he really beat one, the other 8 would fight with their lives. They would hug your legs and beat you to death. Moreover, it was said that they started learning combat from the age of 4. Did they really think that they were easy to bully? Okay. Wang Miao didn't get angry with the young man. He said to him, if you have the strength, go help boil the water so that you can use it for bathing. New clothes will be sent here in the morning. Actually, Xiao Bei and the others aren't like what you think. They're very strong and they know a lot of knowledge. If you want to be better than them in the future, you have to study hard. They're only 14 years old. What if I have a knife? Can they beat me? The young man's willpower was still lacking. He still wanted to compete. The older man slapped the back of the young man's head. Go boil the water. You have a knife. They have guns. What are your identities? What are their identities? Why would they fight with you? If you say any more, be careful that the seedling protection team will teach you a lesson. When the young man heard this, he was scared. He knew that he would not be able to win against a group of people from the seedling protection team. He had not seen them use knives before. It seemed that they used their hands, arms, knees, and legs to knock them down. Were their fists made of iron? Especially when they attacked from behind. They held the other person's head and moved their arms. That person's head drooped down. How did they play? He's just a child. Don't mind him. Lu Bo was afraid that someone would attack that person, so he said to Wang Miao. Wang Miao shook his head. We won't hurt him, but we have to talk to him properly. He said it in front of us. We'll just treat it as a joke. If he says it again when he goes there in the future and others hear it, the consequences, yes. We have to talk to him properly. If he said that in front of me, I would beat him up. If we go to a crowded place, he will be beaten to death. Brother Wang, sign it. Lu Bo suddenly thought of the many Tang people he had met. If that young man had said the same thing, he would definitely not have survived. Once the surrounding people came forward, they would not rest until they were beaten to death. Insulting and belittling the Zhang and Wang clans was a major crime. There was no law in the law. It was said that in Xuanyang, Xiaobei and the others were almost bombed, but the locals dug 3 feet into the ground to find them. If you belittled them, wouldn't you be provoking the entire Great Tang? It would be useless even if you brought the case to Hanyuan Palace Hall. No one in the royal court would dare to speak up for you. Wang Miao refused. We can't sign anything for you. Let's go back and tell the little ancestors that there's a new camera. Take a picture of them and get them to sign on the back of the photo. Here, you can give it to your children. Camera. What's that? Lu Bo had never heard of it before. It's something that looks more like a real person than a painting. It's still very valuable now, Wang Miao replied. Lu Bo could tell that it was better than a painting and was very valuable now. Didn't that mean that it could be used in bulk in the future? The price wouldn't be low, but with his family's money, it shouldn't be a problem for him to use it a few times. Thus, he happily said, you must remember that my children haven't had the chance to see Xiao Bei and the others. Moreover, they're in Idyll now. If I don't help them once when I go back, they'll throw a tantrum at me again. I can't bear to hit them when they throw a tantrum. If I hit them too hard, then you'll be arrested. Don't think that they're your children. Their lives aren't in your hands. I'll send a telegram now and tell the young master and young lady who are waiting at home for news that the rescue was successful. They've been paying attention to this operation and even personally came up with a few plans. I'll also mention your request while I'm at it. Perhaps the little ancestors will be very happy to know that your children want to see them and take the initiative to look for you. This can be considered a form of consolation for your family before you return home. We won't have to send a message to your family alone. Wang Miao turned around again. Wait a moment. Lu Bo called out again and said with embarrassment, then, you can send the message first. We'll talk later. I was afraid that you wouldn't come back. It wasn't easy to see you, and I have a lot to say. Team Zero, I have something to boast about in the future. Someone go and send the message. Wang Miao instructed the person beside him. He could understand Lu Bo's current state of mind. He had just escaped from the jaws of death, and he needed some sort of spiritual comfort. After all, he was only a businessman and not an elite member of the special forces. During the rescue process, one of the reasons was to give the other party psychological counseling. Otherwise, what was the point of rescuing someone who had gone insane after 2 days? Speak. We'll always be by your side, and there will be more people coming. Don't worry. Wang Miao smiled warmly. Lu Bo stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly understood why the other party was like this. He, who was usually indifferent to the loss of money, once again shed tears.